The moment Ethan walked into that classroom, his entire world shattered. Standing there, calm and beautiful as ever, was the woman who had destroyed him 10 years ago. The woman who vanished without a trace, without a word, without mercy. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part? She'd been secretly spending time with his daughter for months. His little girl loved her, trusted her, and he had no idea why she came back, what she wanted, or what other secret she was hiding. This is a story about betrayal, second chances, and the terrifying risk of loving someone who broke you once before. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights of Maplewood Elementary buzzed overhead as Ethan Ryder pushed through the double doors at 6:47 p.m., 13 minutes late and breathing hard. His work boots left faint dust prints on the polished linoleum, evidence of another brutal 10-hour shift pouring concrete foundations in the blistering autumn heat. His shoulders ached, his hands were raw, and somewhere between the construction site and the school parking lot, he'd managed to splash coffee down the front of his only clean flannel shirt. Perfect. Just perfect. "Mr. Ryder," a cheerful voice called from the main hallway. "We're so glad you could make it." Ethan forced a smile at Mrs. Patterson, the school's perpetually enthusiastic vice principal, who was stationed at a table covered in name tags and colorful pamphlets about the fall reading program. She handed him a visitor sticker with Lily's dad printed in bold letters, and he pressed it onto his chest, right over the coffee stain. "Lily's classroom is down the hall, third door on the right," Mrs. Patterson said, her smile never wavering. "Miss Chen is wonderful. You're going to love hearing about your daughter's progress." "Thanks," Ethan muttered, already moving down the corridor. The hallway walls were plastered with student artwork, construction paper turkeys, handprint autumn leaves, crayon drawings of families that all seemed to include two smiling parents, a dog, and a house with a chimney. Ethan had stopped noticing those perfect family portraits years ago. His reality was different. One exhausted father, one incredible daughter, and a small apartment above a laundromat where the rent was cheap and the walls were thin. He'd been doing this alone since Lily was born. Well, not entirely alone. His mother helped when she could, despite her own health problems. But the day-to-day grind of single parenthood was his burden to carry. Wake up at 5. Make breakfast. Drop Lily at school. Work until his muscles screamed. Pick her up from aftercare. Homework. Dinner. Bath time. Bedtime stories. Collapse into bed. Repeat. It was exhausting. It was relentless. But Lily made every second worth it. Ethan reached the third door and paused, straightening his shirt and running a hand through his dark hair. Through the small window, he could see other parents already seated in child-sized chairs, chatting with Ms. Chen about reading levels and math progress. He was about to push the door open when he heard Lily's voice echoing from somewhere down the hall. "Miss Donovan! Miss Donovan, wait!" Ethan turned. His 7-year-old daughter was running toward him, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders, her brown curls flying behind her. But she wasn't alone. Walking beside her, moving with the kind of graceful confidence that seemed to slow time itself, was a woman Ethan hadn't seen in 10 years. Claire Donovan. The world tilted. She wore a tailored navy blazer over a cream silk blouse, fitted charcoal slacks, and heels that clicked softly against the linoleum. Diamond studs glinted in her ears. Everything about her screamed success, sophistication, control. But her eyes, those deep green eyes that had once looked at him like he was her entire world, those were the same. And when they met his, he saw the exact moment she recognized him. Claire stopped walking, the color drained from her face. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "Daddy!" Lily crashed into Ethan's legs, wrapping her arms around him in a fierce hug. "You're here. I was just saying goodbye to Miss Donovan. She brought me a new book today. It's about a girl who discovers a secret garden, and—" "Lily." Ethan's voice came out hoarse. He couldn't look away from Claire. "Go wait in the classroom, sweetheart. I'll be right there." "But Daddy, I wanted to introduce you to—" "Now, Lily." Something in his tone made his daughter step back. She looked between her father and Miss Donovan, confusion clouding her bright eyes, but she nodded and disappeared into the classroom. The hallway suddenly felt very small. "Ethan?" Claire's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know you'd be here tonight." Didn't know? The words came out sharper than he intended. You've been volunteering at my daughter's school. You've been spending time with her, for months apparently, and you didn't know? Claire's composure cracked, just for a second. Her hand moved to her throat, a nervous gesture he remembered from years ago. I didn't realize she was your daughter, not at first. The enrollment records just said Ryder. It's not an uncommon name by the time I put it together. You stayed. Ethan took a step closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous. You figured out Lily was mine and you stayed. Why? Claire's eyes glistened. I couldn't just abandon her. She loves the reading program. She's thriving. You couldn't abandon her? Ethan's laugh was bitter. That's rich, Claire. Really rich. Because abandoning people? That seems to be your specialty. The words hit their mark. Claire flinched as if he'd struck her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched, heavy with 10 years of unanswered questions, unspoken pain, and a betrayal that time had never healed. Mrs. Patterson's voice drifted down the hallway, cheerfully directing another late parent toward their child's classroom. Normal life continued around them, oblivious to the earthquake happening in this quiet corridor. I should go, Claire finally said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. This was a mistake. I'll arrange for another volunteer to take over Lily's reading sessions. She turned to leave. Wait. Ethan didn't know why he said it. Maybe it was the way his daughter's face lit up whenever she talked about Miss Donovan. Maybe it was the flood of memories, Claire's laugh, her hand in his, the way she used to look at him like he was enough, crashing through his carefully constructed walls. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe he just needed to understand why. Claire stopped, but didn't turn around. My daughter adores you, Ethan said quietly. She talks about you every single night at dinner. The books you bring her. The way you help her sound out difficult words. You've made a difference in her life, and I won't take that away from her just because you and I have history. Claire turned slowly. Hope flickered across her face, quickly suppressed. But, Ethan continued, his voice hardening, you owe me an explanation. Not tonight, not here, but soon. You disappeared from my life without a word 10 years ago, Claire. You don't get to appear in my daughter's life without telling me why. Okay, Claire whispered. Okay, I'll explain everything. I promise. Your promises don't mean much to me anymore, sir. The words hung between them, brutal and true. Claire nodded, accepting the hit. I know, but I'll keep this one anyway. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out a business card. My number. Call me when you're ready to talk. Ethan took the card without looking at it and shoved it in his pocket. I have to go, Claire said. Tell her I'll see her next Thursday. Same as always. She walked away, her heels clicking against the floor, and Ethan watched her disappear around the corner. Only when she was completely gone did he realize his hands were shaking. Daddy? He turned. Lily stood in the classroom doorway, her small face creased with worry. Is everything okay? Why did Miss Donovan leave so fast? Ethan knelt down and pulled his daughter into his arms, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. Everything's fine, sweetheart. Miss Donovan just had to go. She said she'll see you next Thursday. Promise? She promised. Lily relaxed in his embrace. Good. I really like her, Daddy. She's the nicest volunteer. She doesn't just read to us, she asks us questions about the stories and listens to our answers like they really matter. Ethan's chest tightened. Of course Claire was good with the kids. She'd always been kind, generous, thoughtful, right up until the moment she wasn't. Come on, he said, standing and taking Lily's hand. Let's go talk to Ms. Chen about how you're doing in class. The parent-teacher conference passed in a blur. Chen praised Lily's reading comprehension, her creativity in writing assignments, her kindness toward other students. Ethan nodded and smiled and said all the right things, but his mind was miles away, trapped in a memory he'd tried to bury. 10 years ago. Ethan had been 23 years old, working 2 jobs and taking night classes at the community college, dreaming of becoming an engineer. Money was tight, his future was uncertain, but none of that mattered because he had Claire. They'd met at a coffee shop near campus. one of those chance encounters that felt like destiny. She'd been sitting alone, reading a worn paperback, and when their eyes met over the espresso machine, something electric passed between them. They talked for 4 hours straight, then 4 more the next day. Within a month, they were inseparable. Claire came from money. Old money, the kind that built hospitals and had buildings named after them. But she never acted like it mattered. She laughed at his terrible jokes. She fell asleep on his shoulder during late-night study sessions. She told him she loved him first, whispered it against his neck while they danced in his tiny apartment to music playing from a phone speaker. "I don't care about any of it," she'd said one night, lying beside him in the dark. "The money, the expectations, the family business. I just want you. This. Us." "Promise?" he'd asked, pulling her closer. "Promise." 3 months later, she was gone. No phone call, no note, no explanation. She simply vanished, deleted her social media, changed her number, moved away from the apartment they'd been planning to rent together. Ethan spent weeks trying to find her, calling mutual friends, driving to her parents' estate only to be turned away by security. Eventually, he understood the message. Claire Donovan wanted nothing to do with him. The rejection nearly destroyed him. He dropped out of school, unable to focus. He threw himself into construction work, using physical exhaustion to numb the emotional pain. For months, he existed in a gray fog of anger and heartbreak. And then Lily's mother, Jessica, came into his life. Jessica was a bartender at the pub, where Ethan spent too many nights trying to drink away memories of Claire. She was funny, direct, and refreshingly uncomplicated. They started dating casually, nothing serious, both of them clear that it wasn't love, just companionship and distraction. When Jessica got pregnant 6 months later, they tried to make it work. They really did. But there was no foundation, no real connection beyond the child they'd accidentally created together. They fought constantly. Jessica resented being trapped. Ethan resented that he couldn't love her the way she deserved. When Lily was 6 months old, Jessica sat him down and said the kindest thing she'd ever said to him. "You're a good man, Ethan. You'll be a great father, but we're making each other miserable. Let me go." So he did. Jessica moved to Seattle for a fresh start, signing over full custody. She sent money when she could and called on birthdays, but she'd been honest from the start. Motherhood wasn't who she was. Ethan didn't judge her for it. At least she'd been truthful, which was more than he could say for Claire. And for 7 years, he'd poured everything he had into raising Lily. She became his purpose, his joy, the reason he got up every morning. He stopped thinking about Claire, stopped wondering what he'd done wrong, stopped caring. Or so he'd thought. "Mr. Ryder? Mr. Ryder?" Ethan blinked. Ms. Chen was looking at him with concern. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "What did you say?" "I was just asking if you had any questions about Lily's progress." No, she sounds like she's doing great, thank you." Ms. Chen smiled. "She really is. You should be very proud." "I am." The conference ended, and Ethan held Lily's hand as they walked back through the hallway toward the parking lot. The building was nearly empty now, most families already gone. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. "Daddy?" Lily looked up at him. "Are you mad at Miss Donovan?" Ethan's stomach dropped. "What makes you think that?" "You looked angry when you were talking to her, and she looked sad. 7 years old and already too perceptive for her own good." "I'm not mad, sweetheart," Ethan said carefully. "Miss Donovan and I we knew each other a long time ago, before you were born. Seeing her again was surprising, that's all." "Oh." Lily considered this. "Were you friends?" "Something like that." "Well, I think you should be friends again. She's really nice, and she's always sad." Ethan stopped walking. "What do you mean she's always sad?" Lily shrugged. "I don't know. She smiles a lot, but her eyes are sad, like she's missing something important." She looked up at her father with those wide, innocent eyes. "Maybe she's lonely." The observation hit Ethan harder than it should have. He pushed it away. "Come on," he said, tugging her gently toward the exit. "Let's go home. I'm thinking grilled cheese for dinner." "With tomato soup?" "Is there any other way?" Lily giggled, and the sound eased some of the tension in Ethan's chest. They drove home in their beat-up Honda. Lily chattering about her day while Ethan navigated the familiar streets on autopilot. When they finally climbed the narrow stairs to their second-floor apartment, he felt the weight of the evening settling over him like a heavy blanket. Dinner was simple. Bath time was chaotic, involving too many bubbles and Lily's dramatic retelling of a playground dispute. Story time was 3 chapters of Lily's current favorite book, a fantasy about a girl who discovered she had magic powers. "Do you think magic is real, Daddy?" Lily asked sleepily as he tucked her in. "I think there are different kinds of magic," Ethan said, kissing her forehead. "The magic of a good book. The magic of someone loving you. That kind of magic is definitely real. Like how you love me?" "Exactly like that." "And how Miss Donovan loves books?" Ethan hesitated. "Yeah, sweetheart. Like that." Satisfied, Lily closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. Ethan stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching his daughter's chest rise and fall with peaceful breaths. She was his entire world. Everything he did, every choice he made, was for her, which made Claire's reappearance even more complicated. He retreated to the small living room, collapsing onto the worn couch that had come with the apartment. The business card Claire had given him was still in his pocket. He pulled it out, studying the elegant lettering. Claire Donovan, CEO, Donovan Consulting Group, Strategic Business Solutions. Below that, a phone number and email address. CEO. Of course she was a CEO. While he'd been struggling to pay rent and raise a daughter alone, Claire had been building an empire. Ethan should have thrown the card away, should have blocked her number and told Lily that Miss Donovan had to stop volunteering, should have protected himself from the woman who'd already broken him once. But Lily's words echoed in his mind. She's really nice, and she's always sad. Against every instinct screaming at him to leave the past buried, Ethan pulled out his phone. He typed a message before he could talk himself out of it. "This is Ethan. We need to talk. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Java Gym's on Oak Street. Come alone." He hit send before doubt could stop him. The response came 30 seconds later. "I'll be there. Thank you for giving me this chance." Ethan stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then he dropped the phone on the couch and buried his face in his hands. What the hell was he doing? The next day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Ethan went through the motions at work, mixing concrete and hauling materials while his mind spun in circles. His coworkers noticed his distraction. He nearly dropped a load of lumber and had to redo a foundation measurement twice, but they had the good sense not to comment. By the time his shift ended, his nerves were frayed. He picked up Lily from aftercare, made her favorite dinner, spaghetti with butter and parmesan, no sauce, and dropped her at his mother's house for the evening. "Hot date?" his mother asked with a teasing smile as Lily ran inside to play with the old dollhouse in the spare room. "Not exactly," Ethan muttered. His mother studied his face. "You look like you're heading to a funeral." "Feels like it." She didn't press, just squeezed his shoulder. "Whatever it is, you'll handle it. You always do." Ethan wished he had her confidence. Java Gym's was a small coffee shop on the edge of downtown, the kind of place with mismatched furniture, local art on the walls, and a bulletin board covered in flyers for yoga classes and used furniture. Ethan arrived 10 minutes early, ordered a black coffee he didn't want, and chose a table in the back corner. He was halfway through mentally rehearsing what he wanted to say when the bell above the door chimed. Claire walked in, and once again, Ethan was struck by how different she looked. Tonight she wore jeans, expensive ones, perfectly fitted, and a soft cashmere sweater the color of autumn leaves. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She'd dressed down, he realized, trying to look approachable, less intimidating. It didn't work. She was still the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. She spotted him immediately and walked over, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. "Hi," she said softly. "Sit." Claire sat, ordering nothing, her full attention on him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The coffee shop hummed with background noise, the hiss of the espresso machine, quiet conversation from other tables, indie folk music playing overhead. 10 years, Ethan finally said. 10 years, Claire, and not a single word. No explanation, no closure, nothing. I know. Do you? His voice was calm, but anger simmered beneath the surface. Do you have any idea what that did to me? I thought we had something real. I thought you loved me. And then you just vanished. Claire's eyes filled with tears. I did love you. I loved you so much it terrified me. Funny way of showing it. I was 22 years old, Claire said, her voice breaking, and I was pregnant. The world stopped. Ethan stared at her, unable to process the words. What? I was pregnant with your child, Claire whispered. 8 weeks along when I left. The coffee cup slipped from Ethan's hand, clattering against the table. Hot liquid spilled across the surface, but he didn't move to clean it up. He couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. You were... He couldn't even finish the sentence. A barista appeared with napkins, mopping up the spill with quick efficiency. Neither Ethan nor Claire acknowledged her. When they were alone again, Claire continued, her voice hollow. I found out 2 weeks before I disappeared. I was terrified. We had no money. You were working 2 jobs and barely making rent. I was supposed to start at my father's company in the fall. Everything was falling apart. So you ran, Ethan said flatly. You were carrying my child, and you ran. I panicked. Fresh tears spilled down Claire's cheeks. My parents found out. They were furious. They said I was throwing my life away, that you were going nowhere, that I'd be trapped forever. They offered to pay for everything, an apartment, medical care, everything, if I cut ties with you and focused on the baby and my future. And you listened to them. I was young and scared and stupid, Claire said desperately. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing, that you deserved better than being trapped with a baby you didn't plan for, that I was protecting you. Protecting me? Ethan's voice rose. You didn't protect me, Claire. You destroyed me. And you didn't even give me a choice. I know that now. But at the time, where's the child? Ethan interrupted. The question came out strangled. I have a son, a daughter. Where are they? Claire's face crumpled. Nowhere. I lost the baby. The confession hung in the air, devastating. I was 12 weeks along when I miscarried, Claire continued through her tears. The doctor said it was a spontaneous loss. Nothing I did wrong, just one of those things that happens. But I blame myself anyway, for the stress, for leaving you, for everything. Ethan felt like he was drowning. When? A month after I left. I was alone in a new apartment in Boston. My parents had already moved me there to start my position at the company. When it happened, Her voice broke completely. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't call you. I'd already burned that bridge, so I buried it, buried the grief, buried the guilt. I told myself I deserved the pain. Jesus, Claire. I threw myself into work, she said, built the company into something powerful, told myself success would fill the void, but it never did. Nothing did. I spent years trying to outrun the guilt of what I'd done to you, to us, to the baby we lost. Ethan's mind reeled. 10 years ago, while he'd been drowning in heartbreak, Claire had been dealing with this. Alone. Grieving a child he'd never known existed. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. After the miscarriage. Why didn't you reach out? Because I was ashamed, Claire whispered. Because I'd made my choice, and I had to live with it. What would I even say? Sorry I broke your heart by the way I was pregnant and lost our baby. I convinced myself it was better to let you move on, to let you hate me rather than burden you with grief for a child you'd never known about. That wasn't your choice to make. I know. Silence fell between them again. Ethan's hands were shaking. He gripped the edge of the table to steady them. The volunteering, he said finally. Why? Claire wiped her eyes. 5 years ago, I hit a breaking point. Success felt empty. I had everything I thought I wanted, money, power, respect, and I'd never been more miserable. So I started volunteering at schools, reading programs mostly, being around children, helping them discover books. It was the only thing that made me feel human again. And Lily? I met her 6 months ago, Claire said. She was struggling with a chapter book, getting frustrated. I sat down to help her and she just opened up, started telling me about her life, her favorite stories, her dreams. She was so bright and curious and kind. I didn't realize she was yours. Not then. When did you figure it out? 3 months ago. She mentioned her dad was a construction worker named Ethan. I thought it might be coincidence. Ethan's not that uncommon, but then she brought in a family photo for show and tell. Claire's voice softened. The moment I saw you in that picture, I knew. And you stayed. I couldn't leave her, Claire said desperately. I know I had no right. I know it was selfish. But Lily had become important to me. She reminded me of everything I'd lost. And maybe I thought if I could help her, be there for her, it would somehow balance the scales for the child I couldn't save. You were trying to replace our baby with my daughter. The accusation was harsh, but Claire didn't flinch from it. Maybe. I don't know. All I knew was that walking away from Lily felt like losing another child. I couldn't do it. Not again. Ethan stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. He needed air, needed space, needed to think. I have to go, he said. Claire stood too, panic flashing across her face. Ethan, please. I'm not telling you to stop volunteering, he said. Lily loves you, and like I said, I won't take that away from her. But I need time to process this. All of it. Okay, yes, take all the time you need. Ethan turned to leave, then stopped. Without looking back, he asked the question that had been burning in his mind since yesterday. Did you ever really love me? Or was I just some rebellion against your parents? I loved you more than I've ever loved anyone, Claire said quietly. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life, and not a single day has gone by that I haven't regretted it. Ethan nodded once, then walked out into the cool evening air. He sat in his truck for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel and trying to breathe through the storm of emotions crashing over him. Grief for a child he'd never known, anger at Claire for robbing him of the choice, confusion about what any of this meant. And underneath it all, something he didn't want to acknowledge, the tiniest flicker of understanding. Claire had been young and scared and pressured by people who should have supported her. She'd made terrible choices, yes, but she'd also paid for them. 10 years of guilt, grief, and loneliness. That didn't excuse what she'd done. But maybe, just maybe, it explained it. Ethan started the truck and drove to his mother's house to pick up Lily. His daughter ran to him the moment he walked in, chattering about the cookies Grandma had let her decorate. Did you have a good time? He asked, scooping her into his arms. The best. Can we come back tomorrow? We'll see, sweetheart. On the drive home, Lily fell asleep in her car seat, her head lolling to the side. Ethan glanced at her in the rearview mirror, this perfect, beautiful child who'd become his entire world. He'd built a good life for them. A simple life, maybe, but full of love and stability. And now Claire had reappeared, bringing with her a complicated past and feelings he'd thought were long dead. The question was, what did he do about it? When they got home, Ethan carried Lily inside and tucked her into bed without waking her. Then he stood in his small kitchen, staring at the refrigerator covered in Lily's drawings and school papers. His phone buzzed, a text from Claire. Thank you for listening tonight. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope someday you might understand why I made the choices I did. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. See. Ethan stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed a response. I need time, but for Lily's sake, you can keep volunteering. Just keep your distance from me for now. I will. Thank you. He set the phone down and walked to Lily's room, watching his daughter sleep. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. She had no idea her world had just gotten infinitely more complicated. Ethan made a silent promise. Whatever happened with Claire, he would protect Lily first. His feelings, Claire's regrets. None of it mattered more than his daughter's happiness and security. But as he stood there in the dim light, he couldn't deny the truth he'd been avoiding since yesterday. Seeing Claire again hadn't just reopened old wounds. It had awakened something he thought he'd buried forever, and he had no idea what to do about it. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange, suspended reality, where Ethan tried to pretend everything was normal, while his world quietly reorganized itself around Claire's confession. He went through the motions: work, pickup, dinner, homework, bedtime, but his mind was never fully present. At the construction site, he found himself staring at concrete forms without seeing them, his thoughts drifting to a child that had existed for 12 brief weeks a decade ago. A child he would never meet, a child whose loss Claire had carried alone. The grief hit him at unexpected moments, standing in line at the grocery store. driving past the elementary school, watching Lily sleep. Each time he felt the phantom weight of something that had never been his to hold, and the anger he'd carried for 10 years began to shift into something more complicated. On Thursday evening, Ethan picked Lily up from aftercare as usual. She bounced to the car with her backpack trailing behind her, chattering before she even opened the door. "Miss Donovan brought the best book today, Daddy. It's about a fox who learns to be brave, even though everyone says foxes are supposed to be sneaky. Can we go to the library this weekend and find more books like it?" "Sure, sweetheart," Ethan said, pulling into traffic. And she said next week we're going to start a special project where we write our own stories and make them into real books with covers and everything. Ethan glanced at his daughter in the rearview mirror. Her whole face glowed when she talked about Claire. It was impossible to miss the connection they'd formed, the way Claire had become important to this child who barely remembered her own mother. "She sounds like a really good teacher," Ethan said carefully. "She's the best. And Daddy?" Lily's voice turned serious. "I know you said you and Miss Donovan used to be friends. Can you be friends again? I think it would make her happy." Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "It's complicated, Lily." "Why?" "Because sometimes grown-ups hurt each other, even when they don't mean to. And it takes time to fix that." Lily considered this. "Did Miss Donovan hurt you?" The question was so direct, so innocent, that Ethan didn't know how to answer without lying. "Yeah," he finally said. "She did. A long time ago." "Did you hurt her back?" I don't think so." "Then maybe you should forgive her," Lily said, with the absolute certainty only a 7-year-old could muster. "That's what you always tell me to do when someone says sorry." Ethan couldn't help but smile. "You're pretty smart, you know that?" "I know," Lily said matter-of-factly, and he laughed despite everything. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan found himself pulling out his phone and scrolling to Claire's contact. He'd saved her number but hadn't reached out since that night at the coffee shop. His thumb hovered over her name for a long moment before he set the phone down. Not yet. He wasn't ready yet. But the wall he'd built around his heart was developing cracks. Friday morning brought unexpected chaos. Ethan arrived at the construction site to find his foreman, Marcus, arguing with a man in an expensive suit who clearly didn't belong among the concrete mixers and lumber piles. "What's going on?" Ethan asked, setting down his lunch cooler. Marcus turned, his weathered face creased with frustration. "Corporate nonsense. This is Mr. Henderson from the development company. Apparently there's an issue with project funding." The suit, Henderson, smoothed his tie and addressed Ethan with barely concealed impatience. "Are you the site supervisor?" "One of them," Ethan said. "What's the problem?" "The problem is that your primary investor has withdrawn their commitment. Effective immediately, this project is on indefinite hold pending new funding sources." The words took a moment to register. "Wait, what? We're 3 weeks from completion. We have contracts, schedules, people depending on this work." "I understand this is inconvenient," Henderson interrupted. "But these decisions are made at levels far above both of us. You'll receive official notice by Monday. For now, I need you to secure the site and send your crew home." "You can't be serious," Marcus said. "We've got 40 guys working this job. 40 families counting on steady paychecks." Henderson's expression remained cold. "Not my problem. Take it up with your contracting company." He turned and walked back to his black sedan without another word. Ethan and Marcus stood in stunned silence as the car disappeared down the access road. "What the hell just happened?" Marcus finally asked. "I have no idea," Ethan said, but a cold suspicion was already forming in his gut. He pulled out his phone and searched for the development company's website. It took less than 5 minutes to find what he was looking for. The primary investor in the Riverside Commons project had been Donovan Consulting Group, Claire's company. The realization hit like a physical blow. This couldn't be coincidence. The timing was too perfect. 2 weeks after their confrontation, her company suddenly pulls funding from a project he's working on? "Ethan?" Marcus was watching him. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I need to make a call," Ethan said. "Can you handle breaking the news to the crew?" Marcus sighed heavily. Yeah, I'll take care of it. This is gonna gut them, man." Ethan barely heard him. He was already walking toward his truck, phone in hand, Claire's number pulled up on the screen. This time he didn't hesitate. He hit call. She answered on the second ring. "Ethan? What did you do?" His voice was dangerously quiet. What? I don't... The Riverside Commons project. Your company just pulled funding. 40 people are losing their jobs, Claire. 40 families. What the hell did you do? There was a long pause. When Claire spoke again, her voice was small. Can we talk in person, please? I can explain. Explain what? That you decided to destroy people's livelihoods because... What? Because I asked for space? Because you felt guilty? What possible explanation could justify this? It's not what you think, Claire said desperately. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was trying to Save it, Ethan cut her off. You know what? I actually started to feel sorry for you. Started to understand why you made the choices you did 10 years ago. But this is the same pattern, Claire. Making decisions that affect other people's lives without thinking about the consequences, without talking to anyone. Ethan, please, just let me explain. I have to go tell 40 men they don't have jobs anymore. We're done here. He hung up before she could respond and stood there in the parking lot, shaking with anger. Around him, confused workers were already packing up tools, their voices rising in worried questions Marcus couldn't answer. Ethan had defended Claire to himself, had started to soften toward her despite everything, and she'd just proven exactly why trusting her was a mistake. His phone buzzed with a text. I'm coming to the site. Please don't leave. I need to explain what happened. See. Don't bother, he typed back. There's nothing you can say that will fix this. But 20 minutes later, a sleek silver Mercedes pulled into the construction site parking lot, and Claire stepped out wearing a business suit and determined expression. Ethan watched her approach, his jaw clenched. Several workers stopped what they were doing to stare at the out-of-place woman in designer heels, picking her way across the muddy lot. I told you not to come, Ethan said when she reached him. And I told you I needed to explain. Claire's voice was steady, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. This isn't what you think. Really? Because it looks exactly like what I think. Your company pulls funding right after I tell you I need space. What am I supposed to conclude? That I made a terrible mistake, Claire said, but not for the reasons you think. Can we please talk somewhere private? No. Whatever you have to say, you can say it right here. Claire glanced around at the workers, pretending not to watch them. Fine. The funding withdrawal wasn't about you. It was about us. There is no us, Ethan said flatly. Claire flinched but continued. I've been trying to figure out how to have you in my life again, how to fix what I broke. And I kept coming back to the same problem, the power imbalance between us. I'm a CEO. You're a construction worker. I have money and resources and connections, and you're struggling to make rent every month. Careful, Ethan warned. You're about 2 seconds from getting really offensive. That came out wrong, Claire said quickly. What I mean is, how could we ever have an equal relationship when the financial disparity is so massive? How could you trust that I'm not trying to control things or manipulate situations? So I thought, she took a deep breath. I thought if I removed my company from projects you were working on, it would eliminate that dynamic, create space for something real between us that wasn't tainted by money or power. Ethan stared at her in disbelief. So you tanked a multi-million-dollar project and cost 40 people their jobs to create space for a relationship that doesn't even exist? I didn't think about the consequences, Claire admitted, her voice breaking. I was so focused on trying to fix the power imbalance that I didn't stop to consider. She pressed her hands to her face. I'm still doing it. I'm still making decisions that hurt people because I'm too busy trying to control outcomes instead of just letting things happen naturally. You think? Ethan's anger hadn't diminished, but there was something almost pitiful about watching Claire realize the magnitude of her mistake in real time. I can fix this, she said urgently. I'll call the development company right now. I'll reinstate the funding. The project can continue. And what happens in 6 months when you decide to fix something else? What happens the next time you make a unilateral decision that affects my life without talking to me first? It won't happen again. You can't promise that, Ethan said. This is who you are, Claire. Someone who sees a problem and bulldozes through it with money and power. Damn the collateral damage. You did it 10 years ago when you disappeared. You're doing it now, and I'd be an idiot to believe it won't happen again. Claire's eyes filled with tears. You're right. You're absolutely right. I've spent 10 years building walls and making business decisions and convincing myself that control equals safety. But it doesn't. It just means I keep hurting people I care about. She wiped her eyes roughly. I'll fix the funding situation. Today. Right now. And then I'll stay away from you and Lily. That's what you want, isn't it? For me to just disappear again? That's not... Ethan stopped himself. Was that what he wanted? The easy answer was yes. Cut Claire out, protect himself and Lily from future damage, move on with their simple, uncomplicated life. But the thought of Lily's face when she learned Miss Donovan wouldn't be coming back made his chest tight. Fix the funding first, he said. Then we'll talk about the rest. Claire nodded and pulled out her phone immediately. She walked a few steps away, and Ethan could hear her voice shift into CEO mode, crisp, authoritative, allowing no room for argument. David, it's Claire. The Riverside Commons funding withdrawal? I need it reversed immediately. Yes, I know what I said yesterday. I'm telling you now that was an error in judgment. I don't care about the optics. Reinstate full funding and issue an apology to the development team. By end of business today, David. Make it happen. She ended the call and turned back to Ethan. It's done. The funding will be restored within the hour. The project continues. Just like that? Ethan asked. You snap your fingers and 40 jobs are saved? That's exactly the problem, isn't it? Claire's smile was bitter. I have so much power that I can wreck lives and fix them again with a phone call. And I never stop to think about whether I should. She looked at him with something like desperation. I don't know how to be a normal person, Ethan. I've spent a decade in boardrooms making calculated decisions. Everything in my life is controlled, managed, optimized. But people aren't business problems. Relationships aren't deals to be negotiated. And I keep forgetting that until I've already hurt someone. Ethan wanted to stay angry. Wanted to hold on to the righteous fury that had burned through him when he learned about the funding withdrawal. But looking at Claire, really looking at her, he saw something he'd missed before. She was lonely, deeply, achingly lonely. All the power and success in the world hadn't filled the void left by the choices she'd made 10 years ago. You need help, he said quietly. Claire laughed, but there was no humor in it. Yeah, I probably do. I'm serious. You can't keep operating like this, Claire. Therapy, counseling, something. Because this pattern, making fear-based decisions and hurting people in the process, it's going to destroy you eventually. It already has, she whispered. I just didn't realize it until I saw you again and remembered what it felt like to actually connect with another human being. The admission hung between them, raw and vulnerable. Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Henderson just called. Funding's back on. Project continues Monday. What the hell did you do? Your guy moves fast, Ethan said, showing Claire the message. I pay him to be efficient. She studied Ethan's face. What now? Good question. Ethan looked around at the construction site, at the workers who'd been spared unemployment by Claire's phone call, at the whole complicated mess they'd created. Now you keep your distance, he said. From me, not from Lily. She needs you, and I won't take that away from her. But you and I, we need space, real space. Time for me to figure out if I can ever trust you again. Claire nodded, accepting the boundary even though it clearly hurt. Okay, I'll stay away. But Ethan, she waited until he met her eyes. I meant what I said at the coffee shop. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life, and I would do anything, to prove I've changed. Then prove it, Ethan said, not with grand gestures or phone calls to fix things. Prove it by respecting my boundaries, by thinking before you act, by being the kind of person Lily already thinks you are. I will, Claire promised. I'll do better. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I am getting help. I started seeing a therapist 3 months ago, right after I realized Lily was your daughter. She's been trying to help me understand why I sabotage everything good in my life. A sad smile crossed her face. Turns out carrying unresolved grief and guilt for a decade does a number on your emotional health. Who knew? Despite everything, Ethan felt a flicker of compassion. Good. Keep going to therapy. Figure your stuff out. Because Lily deserves the best version of you, not the one who's still running from the past. She deserves the best version of both of us, Claire said softly. Then she walked back to her Mercedes and drove away, leaving Ethan standing in the mud, trying to process what had just happened. Marcus approached cautiously. So, you want to explain what that was about? Not really, Ethan said. Fair enough. But whoever that woman is, she's got some serious pull. Henderson sounded like someone had put the fear of God into him when he called to reinstate the project. She's complicated, Ethan said. She your ex or something? Or something, Marcus wisely let it drop. Well, tell her thanks from the crew. A lot of guys were really worried about making next month's rent. Guilt twisted in Ethan's gut. Those men had almost lost their jobs because Claire was trying to engineer a relationship that he'd specifically told her he didn't want. The whole situation was absurd and infuriating and sad all at once. That evening, Ethan picked up Lily from aftercare and took her to their favorite pizza place. A tiny hole in the wall with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that only played songs from the 1980s. Lily ordered her usual cheese pizza and chocolate milk, chattering about her day while Ethan tried to focus on her words instead of the emotional whiplash he'd experienced. And then Tommy said his hamster had babies, which is so cool because I really want a pet, Daddy. Maybe a rabbit or a guinea pig or even a fish would be okay. Lily paused mid-sentence. Daddy, are you listening? Of course, sweetheart, Ethan said, forcing himself to focus. You were talking about Tommy's hamster. That was like 5 minutes ago, Lily said with the exasperation only a 7-year-old could achieve. Now I'm talking about the class field trip to the Science Museum. Can you come? It's on a Friday, and I know you work, but Miss Donovan said parents are allowed to be chaperones, and I really want you to meet her properly, because you guys seemed weird at the school that night. Ethan's heart sank. Lily, about Miss Donovan. She's so nice, Daddy. Did you know she used to want to be a teacher when she was little? She told us that during reading time. She said books saved her life when she was sad, and now she wants to share that magic with other kids. Lily's eyes shone with admiration. That's what I want to do too. Save people with stories. Looking at his daughter's earnest face, Ethan felt the weight of every decision he'd made in the past 2 weeks. Claire had hurt him, yes. She'd made terrible choices that affected people's lives, but she was also clearly trying, however imperfectly, to be better. And more importantly, she'd become a positive force in Lily's life. I'll try to make the field trip, Ethan said. No promises, but I'll talk to my foreman. Really? Lily bounced in her seat. That would be so awesome. You can meet Miss Donovan when she's being a teacher instead of just standing in the hallway looking sad. She looks sad? Super sad, Lily confirmed, like she was going to cry. Were you guys fighting? Kids. They saw everything. We were having a difficult conversation, Ethan said carefully, about things that happened a long time ago. Did you fix it? We're trying to. Lily seemed satisfied with that answer. She went back to her pizza, swinging her legs under the booth and humming along to the jukebox. Ethan watched her, this perfect little person who'd become his entire world, and made a decision. He would give Claire one more chance. Not for his sake, but for Lily's. If Claire could prove she was serious about changing, about being someone reliable and trustworthy, then maybe they could find a way to coexist peacefully in his daughter's life. But if she screwed up again, if she made another impulsive decision that hurt people, he would cut her off completely. Lily would recover from losing a volunteer reading teacher. She'd survived worse. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Ethan sent Claire a text. Lily's class has a field trip to the Science Museum in 3 weeks. She wants me to chaperone. Are you going? The response came quickly. I wasn't planning to, but I can if you want me there. Not about what I want. Will it be good for Lily to have both of us there? Honestly, yes. She lights up when she talks about you. Having us both there would mean the world to her. Ethan stared at the message for a long moment, then typed his response. Okay, we'll go together. But Claire, this is for Lily, not for us. Don't read anything into it. I understand. Thank you for giving me this chance. Don't thank me yet. Just show up and be the person Lily thinks you are. That's all I'm asking. I will. I promise. Ethan set the phone down and rubbed his eyes. He was exhausted, emotionally, physically, mentally drained by the roller coaster of the past few weeks. But as he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling of his small bedroom, he couldn't deny the truth that had been growing stronger since the moment he saw Claire in that school hallway. Part of him, a part he desperately wanted to ignore, still cared about her, still remembered what it felt like to love her completely. And that terrified him more than anything else. Because caring about Claire meant being vulnerable again. It meant risking the kind of heartbreak he'd barely survived the first time. And he didn't know if he was brave enough to take that risk. The following Thursday, Ethan found himself standing outside Lily's classroom during reading time, watching through the small window as Claire sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by children. She held a picture book open, reading with animated expressions that made the kids giggle and lean forward in anticipation. Lily sat closest to her, hanging on every word. Claire's voice carried through the door, and the brave little mouse said, "I may be small, but I'm not afraid. What do you think happened next?" Hands shot up. Claire pointed to a boy in the front row. "The mouse fought the dragon," he shouted. "Maybe," Claire said with a smile, "or maybe the mouse realized that not all battles need to be fought with claws and teeth. Maybe some battles are won with courage and kindness instead." She continued reading, and Ethan found himself drawn into the story despite the closed door between them. When the session ended, children scattered to return books and gather their belongings. Claire stood, brushing off her slacks, and that's when she saw Ethan through the window. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither of them moved. Then Lily noticed him and ran to the door. "Daddy, did you come to hear the story? Miss Donovan was reading about a mouse who became friends with a dragon." "I heard a little bit through the door," Ethan admitted. "Sounds like a good one." "The best," Lily confirmed. She grabbed his hand and pulled him into the classroom. "Miss Donovan, look who came." Claire approached slowly, uncertainty written across her face. "Hi, Ethan." "Claire," he nodded. "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd pick Lily up myself today." It was a lie. He'd specifically rearranged his schedule to be there, but Claire didn't call him on it. "I'm glad you did," she said. "Lily was just telling me about the A she got on her reading comprehension test. You must be very proud." "I am." Ethan looked down at his daughter. "Lily, can you go grab your backpack from your locker? I need to talk to Miss Donovan for a minute." "Okay!" Lily skipped off, leaving them alone in the classroom. Claire clasped her hands in front of her, waiting. "I've been thinking about what you said," Ethan started. "About the therapy. About trying to change. And I want you to know that I see you trying. The funding thing was a disaster, but you fixed it fast. That counts for something." Hope flickered in Claire's eyes. "Does this mean—" "It means I'm willing to try," Ethan interrupted. "Not us as a couple. I'm not ready for that, and I don't know if I ever will be. But maybe we can be friends. For Lily's sake. Maybe we can figure out how to coexist in her life without all the drama and pain." "I'd like that," Claire said softly. "I'd like that a lot." "Ground rules," Ethan continued. "First, you talk to me before making any major decisions that could affect Lily or me. No more unilateral moves, no matter how well-intentioned. Second, you respect my boundaries. If I say I need space, you give it to me. Third, Lily comes first, always. Our issues don't get to affect her happiness." "Agreed," Claire said immediately. "All of it. I'll do whatever you need." "And one more thing," Ethan added. "You need to be honest with me. About everything. I can handle hard truths, Claire. What I can't handle is secrets and lies." "No more secrets," Claire promised. "I'll be an open book." Lily came running back, backpack bouncing against her shoulders. "Ready, Daddy?" "Ready, kiddo." Ethan took her hand, then looked back at Claire. "See you at the field trip?" "Absolutely," Claire said, her smile genuine. "I'll be there." As Ethan and Lily walked toward the exit, his daughter looked up at him with a knowing expression far too wise for her age. "You guys are going to be friends again, aren't you?" "We're going to try," Ethan said. "Good," Lily said decisively, "because Miss Donovan needs friends. She's always alone." The observation hit Ethan square in the chest. Lily was right. Despite all her success and power, Claire was fundamentally isolated. She'd built walls so high that no one could reach her, except, apparently, a classroom full of children who didn't care about her money or her title, who just loved her for the stories she brought and the way she listened to them. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan and Claire fell into an uneasy rhythm. They exchanged polite texts about Lily's progress in school. They smiled at each other during pickup. They were cordial, careful, Two people walking on eggshells around a shared past that neither wanted to fully examine. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the sharp edges of Ethan's anger began to soften into something more manageable. He still didn't trust Claire, not fully, but he was starting to believe that she genuinely wanted to change. The night before the field trip, Ethan tucked Lily into bed and listened to her excited chatter about all the exhibits she wanted to see. And Miss Donovan said there's a butterfly garden and a planetarium and this really cool thing where you can see how earthquakes work. Lily's eyes sparkled. I'm so happy you're both coming, Daddy. It's going to be perfect. I hope so, sweetheart, Ethan said, kissing her forehead. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. But long after Lily drifted off, Ethan lay awake thinking about Claire, about the woman she'd been and the woman she was trying to become, about whether forgiveness was possible or if some betrayals cut too deep to ever fully heal. He didn't have answers. All he knew was that tomorrow he'd stand beside the woman who'd once shattered his heart, and together they'd try to give his daughter a perfect day. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough of a start. The morning of the field trip arrived with unseasonably warm weather and a sky so blue it looked painted. Ethan woke early, made Lily her favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes, and helped her pack a lunch decorated with encouraging notes he'd written on her napkin the night before. Do I look okay, Daddy? Lily asked, spinning in her favorite purple dress with the twirly skirt. You look perfect, sweetheart, Ethan said, though his own reflection in the bathroom mirror told a different story. He'd changed shirts 3 times before settling on a plain navy Henley that didn't look like he was trying too hard, which was ridiculous because this wasn't a date. This was a school field trip, a day for Lily, not for him. He repeated that to himself the entire drive to the school. The parking lot was already crowded with buses and parent vehicles when they arrived. Lily spotted her classmates immediately and ran over to join them, leaving Ethan to check in at the volunteer table where Mrs. Patterson was organizing chaperone groups. Mr. Ryder, so wonderful to have you joining us today. She handed him a name tag and a clipboard. You'll be in group 3 with Miss Chen and... She consulted her list. Miss Donovan. Oh, how lovely. Lily will be thrilled to have both of you. Ethan's stomach tightened, but he forced a smile. Great. Where do I find them? Right over there by the blue bus. He turned and immediately saw Claire standing beside the bus, looking completely out of place among the other parent volunteers in their jeans and sneakers. She wore tailored khaki pants, a soft white blouse, and flats that probably cost more than Ethan's entire outfit. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she was laughing at something Ms. Chen had said, her whole face lighting up in a way that made Ethan's chest ache. She looked happy. Genuinely, unselfconsciously happy in a way he hadn't seen in years. As if sensing his gaze, Claire turned and their eyes met across the parking lot. The laughter faded into something softer, more uncertain. She raised her hand in a small wave. Ethan walked over, willing his heart to slow down. Morning. Good morning, Claire said, and he could hear the nervous energy in her voice. Beautiful day for a field trip. Perfect, he agreed. Ms. Chen, oblivious to the tension, beamed at them both. Wonderful. I'm so glad we have 2 excellent volunteers for Group 3. We'll have 12 students, including Lily. The goal is to keep them together, make sure everyone sees the major exhibits, and get them back to the bus by 2:30 for the return trip. Sound manageable? Absolutely, Claire said. We've got it covered, Ethan added. The children began boarding the buses, and Lily made sure to grab seats that would fit both Ethan and Claire nearby. She wedged herself between them, chattering excitedly about the planetarium show scheduled for 11 o'clock. And then we get to see the earthquake simulator and the butterfly garden, and Miss Donovan said there's a whole section about space exploration, and... Lily barely paused for breath. This is the best day ever, and it hasn't even started yet. Claire caught Ethan's eye over Lily's head, and they shared a smile, the first genuine, uncomplicated moment between them in weeks. Maybe this would be okay. Maybe they really could do this. The Science Museum was massive, a sprawling complex of glass and steel that rose from the city's cultural district like a monument to human curiosity. Inside, the atrium soared 3 stories high, filled with suspended models of planets, DNA helixes, and a full-sized replica of a blue whale that made the children gasp in wonder. Group 3 gathered at the base of a towering dinosaur skeleton while Ms. Chen distributed worksheets and explained the scavenger hunt that would guide their exploration. "You'll work in pairs," she announced. "Each pair needs to find answers to 10 questions hidden throughout the exhibits. The first pair to finish gets a prize." The children immediately started pairing off. Lily grabbed the hand of her best friend Emma, leaving Ethan and Claire standing awkwardly with the other adult chaperones. "Looks like we're on supervision duty," Claire said lightly. "Guess so." They followed the children through the first exhibit, a walk through prehistoric times featuring animatronic dinosaurs that roared and moved with startling realism. Lily and Emma shrieked with delighted fear when a T-Rex lunged toward them, and Ethan couldn't help but laugh. "She's fearless," Claire observed, watching Lily drag Emma toward the next exhibit. "Just like her dad." "I don't know about fearless," Ethan said. "Most days I'm just winging it and hoping I don't screw up too badly." "You're doing an amazing job with her. She's confident, kind, curious about everything. That's all you, Ethan." The compliment caught him off guard. "Thanks, but she's her own person. I just try to give her space to figure out who that is." They walked in silence for a moment, surrounded by the chaos of excited children and the ambient sounds of the museum. It should have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. Something about the neutral territory, the shared purpose of watching over Lily, made the usual tension between them ease. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said as they entered the butterfly garden, a humid tropical enclosure filled with flowers and hundreds of colorful butterflies. "Depends on the question." "Why construction? I know you wanted to be an engineer when we were together. What happened to that dream?" Ethan watched a bright blue morpho butterfly land on a nearby hibiscus flower. "Life happened. When you left, I kind of fell apart for a while. Dropped out of school, couldn't focus on anything. Then Jessica got pregnant, and suddenly I had real responsibilities. Construction paid better than anything else I could get without a degree, so I went all in." He shrugged. "It's honest work. I'm good at it, and it gives Lily a stable life." "Do you ever regret it? Giving up on engineering?" "Sometimes," Ethan admitted. "Late at night when the bills are tight and my back's killing me from hauling materials all day. Yeah, I wonder what life would have been like if I'd finished school. But then I look at Lily and I realize I wouldn't trade her for anything, not even the career I thought I wanted." Claire was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "I gave up everything for my career. And you know what I have to show for it? A corner office, a bank account I'll never empty, and a loneliness so deep I sometimes forget what it feels like to really connect with another human being." She wiped at her eyes. "You made the right choice, Ethan. You chose love. I chose fear." Before Ethan could respond, Lily came running over, Emma in tow, both girls breathless with excitement. "Daddy, Miss Donovan, a butterfly landed on Emma's shoulder and it stayed there for like a whole minute. Did you see?" "We missed it," Claire said, composing herself quickly. "That sounds magical." "It was. Come on, we need to find the answer to question 7. The girls ran off again, leaving the adults to follow. The morning passed in a blur of exhibits and discoveries. They watched the earthquake simulator shake a model house to pieces. They explored the human body exhibit where children could crawl through a giant digestive system. They marveled at the space exploration gallery with its authentic moon rocks and retired spacecraft. At lunchtime, the group gathered in the museum's outdoor courtyard, a sunny space with picnic tables and a view of the city skyline. Lily insisted that Ethan and Claire sit with her and Emma, so they squeezed onto the bench while the girls unpacked their lunches and compared notes on their scavenger hunt progress. "We're winning," Lily announced proudly. "We only have 2 questions left." "That's because you're so smart," Emma said loyally. Claire pulled out her own lunch, a salad from an expensive cafe downtown, and caught Ethan looking at it with amusement. "What?" she asked. "Nothing, just, you brought a fork." "Of course I brought a fork. How else would I eat a salad? Most people would have just bought something here." "The museum cafe doesn't have any healthy options," Claire said defensively. "It's all hot dogs and pizza." Ethan held up his own lunch, a sandwich from home wrapped in aluminum foil. "I'm not judging. It's just very you. Prepared, controlled, bringing your own fork to a field trip." Claire looked down at her salad, then back at Ethan, and suddenly she was laughing. Really laughing, the kind of deep, genuine laughter that made her whole body shake. "I'm ridiculous, aren't I?" she said between giggles. "I brought a kale salad with imported dressing to a children's field trip." Little bit, Ethan admitted, grinning despite himself. You know what? Screw it. Claire set down the salad container, stood up, and walked over to the cafe. She returned 5 minutes later with a hot dog loaded with mustard and relish, a bag of chips, and a chocolate chip cookie the size of her hand. Much better, she declared, taking a huge bite of the hot dog. Lily watched this transformation with wide eyes. Miss Donovan, you got junk food. Sometimes junk food is exactly what you need, Claire said, winking at her. They ate in companionable silence, and Ethan found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't expected. This was nice, easy, like old times, except better because there was no pressure, no expectations. Just two adults watching a kid they both cared about have the time of her life. After lunch, they headed to the planetarium for the space show. The Dome Theater was dark and cool, a welcome respite from the afternoon heat. Lily sat between Ethan and Claire, her head tilted back as stars appeared overhead, spreading across the artificial sky in a brilliant tapestry of light. The narrator's voice filled the space, deep and soothing, describing the birth of stars and the death of galaxies, the infinite expanse of a universe so vast it defied comprehension. In the darkness, Ethan felt Claire's hand brush against his on the armrest between their seats. It could have been an accident, could have been nothing, but she didn't pull away. And neither did he. They sat like that through the entire show, their pinkies barely touching, a connection so small it was almost imaginary. But it felt enormous. It felt like possibility. When the lights came up, they both pulled away quickly, but the moment lingered between them, unspoken and fragile. The afternoon wound down with a final visit to the gift shop, where Lily carefully selected a small telescope with her allowance money while Emma debated between a rock collection and a book about marine biology. "What do you think, Miss Donovan?" Emma asked, holding up both options. "I think you should get the book," Claire said. "You can always find rocks outside, but a good book is a treasure you can keep forever." Emma nodded seriously and made her purchase. As they walked back toward the buses, Ms. Chen announced that Lily and Emma had won the scavenger hunt. The girls squealed and hugged each other, jumping up and down with pure joy. "We did it! We did it!" Lily chanted. "You certainly did," Ms. Chen said, handing them each a certificate and a museum pencil. "Excellent teamwork, ladies." On the bus ride back, Lily fell asleep almost immediately, her head resting on Ethan's shoulder, her new telescope clutched in her lap. The other children were equally exhausted, their excited chatter giving way to drowsy silence. Claire sat across the aisle, watching Lily sleep with an expression of such tender longing that Ethan had to look away. "Thank you for today," she said softly, "for letting me be part of this." "You're welcome." "I mean it, Ethan. This was the best day I've had in years. Just being here, being normal, being with you and Lily. I forgot what that felt like." Ethan wanted to say something meaningful, something that would acknowledge the shift happening between them. But before he could find the words, his phone buzzed with a call from Marcus. "Sorry, I need to take this," he whispered, careful not to wake Lily. He answered quietly. "Marcus, what's up?" "Ethan, we've got a problem." Marcus's voice was tight with stress. "Henderson just showed up at the site again. Says there's been another funding issue. Some kind of corporate restructuring at Donovan Consulting. He's shutting us down again, effective tomorrow." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Ethan's eyes shot to Claire, who was watching him with concern. "Are you kidding me?" Ethan hissed into the phone. "We just got back on track 2 weeks ago." "I know, man. I know. But Henderson's got paperwork this time. Official notices. Says the whole consulting division is being reorganized and all external projects are on hold pending review." "That's corporate speak for we're killing the project," Ethan said bitterly. "Yeah, that's what I figured too. Listen, I'm calling everyone on the crew to give them a heads up, but you should know, they're pissed. Really pissed. Some of these guys already turned down other work because we told them this job was solid." Ethan closed his eyes, fighting the urge to throw the phone. "Okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll figure something out." He ended the call and sat there, pulse pounding, trying to process what had just happened. Claire leaned across the aisle. "What's wrong?" "Your company just killed the Riverside project again," Ethan said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Corporate restructuring, apparently. Every external project on hold." The color drained from Claire's face. "What? No, I didn't authorize any restructuring. I specifically told David to keep that project protected Well, he didn't, Ethan cut her off. And now 40 guys are out of work. Again. I'll fix it, Claire said immediately, reaching for her phone. I'll call David right now. No. Ethan's voice was sharp enough that a few nearby parents turned to look. He lowered his volume. Don't. Just don't. But I can fix this, Ethan. One phone call. That's the problem, Claire. He was trying to keep his voice down, trying not to wake Lily or cause a scene on a school bus full of children, but fury was coursing through him. You keep fixing things without understanding that you're the one breaking them in the first place. I didn't do this, Claire insisted, her own voice rising. I swear to you, I had nothing to do with any restructuring. David must have gone rogue or the board made a decision without consulting me. Do you hear yourself? Ethan asked. You're the CEO. You're supposed to be in control, but apparently you have no idea what your own company is doing, which means either you're lying to me about your involvement or you're so disconnected from your business that people are making massive decisions behind your back. Claire flinched as if he'd slapped her. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't know about this. It doesn't matter, Ethan said wearily. Whether you did it on purpose or by accident, the result is the same. People are suffering because of your company, because of you. Then let me fix it, Claire pleaded. Please, just let me make one call. And then what? Ethan demanded. You fix it, the project comes back, and in another month some other corporate decision tanks it again, or maybe you decide we're getting too close and you need to create space again, so you pull funding from something else I'm working on? I can't live like this, Claire. I can't keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. What? Tears were streaming down Claire's face now. I'm trying so hard to be better. I'm in therapy. I'm working on my control issues. I thought I was making progress. Progress isn't enough when people's livelihoods are on the line. Ethan's voice cracked. Do you understand what you've done? Marcus has 3 kids. Tony's wife is pregnant. Jake just bought a house. These aren't abstract numbers on a spreadsheet, Claire. They're real people with real lives, and your inability to manage your own company is destroying them. I know, Claire whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't pay mortgages, Ethan said coldly. Sorry doesn't feed families. The bus pulled into the school parking lot and children began stirring, gathering their belongings. Lily woke up, rubbing her eyes sleepily. Are we back already? She mumbled. Yes, sweetheart, Ethan said, forcing his voice into something gentle. We're back. Lily looked between her father and Claire, her sleepy confusion shifting to concern. Why does Miss Donovan look sad? Why are you both upset? Everything's fine, Ethan lied. Miss Donovan just got some bad news about work, that's all. Oh. Lily reached across the aisle and took Claire's hand. I'm sorry you had bad news, but wasn't today fun? Didn't it make you feel better? Claire's face crumpled. She squeezed Lily's hand and managed a trembling smile. Today was perfect, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing it with me. As the children filed off the bus, Claire caught Ethan's arm. Please, she said desperately, let me try to fix this. Let me call David, talk to the board, figure out what happened. Fix it or don't fix it, Ethan said, pulling his arm away. I honestly don't care anymore, Claire. But after today, you need to stay away from me and my work. No more helping, no more involvement in my professional life. Just stay in your lane. What about Lily? Claire's voice was barely a whisper. Do you want me to stop volunteering? Ethan looked at his daughter, who was showing Ms. Chen her telescope and chattering about her favorite parts of the day. She was so happy, so full of joy and wonder, and he couldn't take that away from her just because he was angry at Claire. You can keep volunteering, he said finally, but only during school hours. No more field trips, no more events where I have to be there too. Can you handle that? Yes, Claire said quickly. Yes, absolutely, whatever you need. Good. Ethan turned to find Lily and get her home, but Claire's voice stopped him one more time. Ethan? For what it's worth, today really was the best day I've had in years, and I mean that. Being with you and Lily, feeling like part of something real, I didn't realize how much I'd been missing that until I had it again. Ethan looked back at her, this beautiful, brilliant, fundamentally broken woman who kept hurting people while trying to help them. That's the tragedy, Claire, he said quietly. You had it once. You had me. You had a future. You had everything you needed to be happy, and you threw it all away because you were too scared to hold on to it. Now you're doing the same thing all over again, just with different collateral damage. He walked away before she could respond, gathering Lily and heading to his truck. In the rearview mirror, he could see Claire standing alone in the parking lot, her shoulders shaking with sobs. He should have felt vindicated, should have felt satisfied that he'd finally made her understand the consequences of her actions. Instead, he just felt empty. That evening, after putting Lily to bed, she'd talked nonstop through dinner about the field trip, blissfully unaware of the tension between the adults. Ethan sat on his couch, staring at his phone. He had 17 missed calls from Marcus and texts from half the crew asking what the hell was happening with the project. He had a voicemail from his landlord reminding him rent was due in 3 days. He had a notice from Lily's school about upcoming fees for the spring festival. And he had a single text from Claire sent an hour ago. I just got off a conference call with my entire executive team. David made the restructuring decision without board approval because he thought it would improve quarterly numbers. I fired him, reinstated all external projects, including Riverside, and implemented new oversight protocols so this can never happen again. I'm also stepping down as active CEO. I'll remain on the board, but I'm moving to an advisory role effective immediately. I can't keep doing this, Ethan. I can't keep being the person who destroys everything she touches. I'm sorry for all of it. Ethan read the message 3 times, trying to process what it meant. She'd fired her second-in-command, reinstated the project, stepped down as CEO. Because of him, because of what he'd said on the bus. He should have been relieved. The project was saved, the crew would keep their jobs, everything was fixed. But all he could think about was Claire standing in that parking lot, crying alone, and the look on her face when he told her she destroyed everything she touched. He'd been cruel. Intentionally cruel, because he was hurt and angry and tired of being the one who paid the price for her mistakes. But seeing those words now, I can't keep being the person who destroys everything she touches, made him feel sick. Because that's exactly what he'd called her. A destroyer. Someone fundamentally incapable of building anything good. And maybe that was true. Maybe Claire did have a pattern of sabotaging her own happiness. But maybe she was also trying harder than anyone he'd ever known to break that pattern. And maybe he'd just made it infinitely harder by confirming her worst fears about herself. Ethan picked up his phone and started typing a response, then deleted it. Started again. Deleted again. What could he possibly say? Thank you for saving everyone's jobs by burning down your career? Sorry for being harsh, but you kind of deserved it? I'm glad you're getting help, but I still can't trust you? All of it felt inadequate. All of it felt wrong. Finally, he sent the only thing that felt honest. I'm sorry, too, for what I said on the bus. You don't destroy everything you touch. You're just learning how to build things that last. That takes time. The response came immediately. Thank you for saying that, but you were right. I needed to hear it. I've been so focused on fixing the past that I keep creating new disasters in the present. Stepping down was the right choice. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not hiding behind corporate power. C. What will you do now? Honestly, I have no idea. Maybe travel. Maybe volunteer full-time. Maybe finally let myself be the person I should have been all along instead of the person my parents wanted me to be. Lily will miss seeing you as much. The volunteering schedule, I mean. I'll still be there every Thursday, I promise. That's the one thing I won't give up. Ethan stared at the message, then made a decision that terrified him. The fall festival is in 3 weeks. Lily's performing in the class play. She'd love it if you came. There was a long pause before Claire's response appeared. Are you sure? You said no more events where you'd have to be there too. I know what I said, but today, before everything went to hell, I saw something. I saw you being happy, really happy. Not the fake CEO smile, but genuine joy. And I realized that despite everything, despite all the pain and mistakes and complications, I want you to have that. You deserve to have that. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come to the festival. I'll be there. Thank you, Ethan, for giving me another chance. Don't thank me yet. I'm still angry with you. I still don't fully trust you. But I'm willing to try. For Lily, and maybe a little bit for us too. That's more than I deserve. Probably. But life isn't about what we deserve, it's about what we choose. And I'm choosing to believe you can be better than your worst mistakes. I won't let you down. Not this time. Ethan set the phone down and leaned back against the couch, emotionally exhausted. The day had been a roller coaster, joy and anger and pain and hope all tangled together until he couldn't tell where one emotion ended and another began. But underneath all of it, one truth remained clear. He still cared about Claire, not just as the woman who volunteered with his daughter, not just as the ghost of a past love, but as someone he genuinely wanted to see succeed. Someone he wanted to see happy. Whether that caring could ever evolve into something more, trust, friendship, maybe eventually love again, remained to be seen. But for the first time since she'd reappeared in his life, Ethan felt like it might be possible. Not easy, not simple, but possible. And sometimes possibility was enough. The weeks following the field trip unfolded with a cautious rhythm that felt both fragile and hopeful. Ethan returned to work on Monday to find the Riverside project fully restored, the crew relieved and grateful, though Marcus kept giving him suspicious looks like he knew there was more to the story than Ethan was telling. "However you pulled this off," Marcus said during their lunch break, "I owe you a beer. Hell, the whole crew owes you a case." "I didn't do anything," Ethan said truthfully. "Just got lucky with timing." But it wasn't luck, and they both knew it. It was Claire, once again using her power to fix the mess she'd inadvertently created. The difference this time was that she'd paid a real price for it. Her position, her identity as the woman in control of everything. Ethan found himself thinking about her more than he wanted to admit, wondering how she was handling the transition from CEO to advisory board member, wondering if she was okay. On Thursday evening, he arrived early to pick up Lily from the reading program. Through the classroom window, he could see Claire sitting cross-legged on the floor as usual, surrounded by children. But something was different. She looked lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Her laughter was genuine, her smile reached her eyes, and when she read from the storybook in her hands, she seemed completely present in the moment. Lily noticed him watching and waved enthusiastically, mouthing, "5 more minutes," through the glass. When the session ended, children scattered to gather their belongings, and Claire began organizing the books they'd used. Ethan pushed open the door and stepped inside. "Hi," he said. Claire looked up, surprise and pleasure flickering across her face. "Hi, you're early." "Slow day at the site. Thought I'd actually be on time for once." He moved closer, hands in his pockets. "How are you doing? With everything?" "You mean with blowing up my entire career?" Claire's smile was self-deprecating, but not bitter. "Honestly, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. Turning over daily operations to the new CEO was terrifying, but also freeing. I've been spending my mornings working with a career counselor, my afternoons volunteering here and at 2 other schools, and my evenings actually sleeping instead of answering emails at midnight. Sounds like a good change." "It is. For the first time in a decade, I feel like I'm living instead of just surviving." She paused, organizing a stack of picture books with careful precision. "I'm also writing again. Did you know I used to write stories when we were together?" Ethan nodded. "I remember. You had that notebook you carried everywhere, said you were going to write the great American novel someday. I gave that up when I joined the company, told myself it was a childish dream, that I needed to focus on real work." Claire's expression grew wistful. "But my therapist suggested I start again as a way to process everything I've been holding on to. So I've been writing every morning, nothing publishable, just thoughts and feelings and stories about people braver than I was. I'd like to read them sometime," Ethan said, surprising himself with the sincerity of the offer. "Really? Really? You were always talented, Claire. I'm glad you're giving yourself permission to do it again." Before Claire could respond, Lily came bounding over, backpack bouncing against her shoulders. "Daddy, Miss Donovan taught us about metaphors today. Do you know what a metaphor is?" "I might have heard of them," Ethan said with mock seriousness. "It's when you say something is something else to make your writing more interesting," Lily explained, her face glowing with the excitement of new knowledge. Like the moon is a pearl in the sky, or her smile was sunshine. Isn't that cool? "Very cool," Ethan agreed. "Miss Donovan said I'm really good at making metaphors. I wrote one about our apartment. Want to hear it?" "Absolutely." Lily cleared her throat dramatically. "Our home is a treasure chest of memories, small but filled with gold. Do you like it?" Ethan felt his throat tighten with unexpected emotion. I love it, sweetheart. That's beautiful. I'm going to be a writer when I grow up, Lily announced, just like Miss Donovan used to want to be. Claire and Ethan's eyes met over Lily's head, and something unspoken passed between them. A shared moment of pride in this remarkable child who somehow managed to see the best in everyone. Ready to go home? Ethan asked. Can Miss Donovan come to dinner? Lily asked suddenly. We're having spaghetti, and you always make too much anyway. Ethan's heart skipped. He should say no, should maintain the boundaries they'd established, keep things simple and uncomplicated. But Claire looked so hopeful, so vulnerable standing there with her arms full of children's books, and he found himself saying, if she wants to, it's not fancy or anything, just basic spaghetti. I'd love to, Claire said quickly, if you're sure it's okay. It's okay, Ethan confirmed, even as a voice in his head questioned his sanity. They took separate cars to the apartment, Lily chattering the entire drive about the fall festival and her upcoming performance as a talking tree in the class play. When they arrived, Ethan felt suddenly self-conscious about the modest second-floor walk-up with its worn carpets and second-hand furniture. Claire had visited once before, back when they were dating, but that was a different apartment, a different life. This place was purely functional, a roof over their heads and nothing more. But if Claire noticed or cared about the humble surroundings, she didn't show it. She complimented the drawings Lily had taped to the refrigerator, admired the bookshelf Ethan had built himself from scrap lumber, and rolled up her sleeves to help in the tiny kitchen while Lily set the table. What can I do? Claire asked. Can you make a salad? Ethan gestured to the vegetables on the counter. I'm useless with anything that doesn't involve boiling water or turning on the stove. I think I can manage that. They worked in companionable silence, moving around each other in the cramped space with surprising ease. The domesticity of it hit Ethan unexpectedly. How natural it felt to have Claire there, chopping vegetables while he stirred sauce, Lily humming in the other room while she arranged mismatched plates and forks. This is what it could have been, he thought. This simple, ordinary happiness. I'm sorry, Claire said quietly, as if reading his mind, for taking this away from us the first time. We were kids, Ethan said. Different people in a different world. Maybe it wouldn't have worked out anyway. Maybe. But I wish we'd had the chance to find out. Dinner was chaotic and wonderful. Lily dominated the conversation with stories about school, her upcoming performance, and her latest theory about whether penguins could fly if they really tried hard enough. Claire engaged with every topic seriously, asking thoughtful questions and offering her own playful theories. Watching them together, Ethan felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't just Claire being kind to a student. This was genuine affection, real connection. Claire loved his daughter, not as a replacement for the child she'd lost, but as her own person worthy of love. After dinner, Lily begged Claire to read her a bedtime story, and Ethan found himself standing in the doorway of his daughter's small bedroom, listening to Claire's voice bring characters to life with different accents and dramatic pauses. When the story ended and Lily's eyes began to droop, Claire kissed her forehead gently. Sweet dreams, little one. Will you come to my performance at the fall festival? Lily asked sleepily. I'm a talking tree and I have 7 whole lines to memorize. I wouldn't miss it for the world, Claire promised. And will you sit with Daddy, so you can both watch me together? Claire glanced at Ethan, uncertain. He nodded slightly. Of course, Claire said. We'll both be there, cheering you on. Satisfied, Lily snuggled into her blankets and closed her eyes. Ethan and Claire retreated to the living room, suddenly awkward now that the buffer of Lily's presence was gone. Ethan gestured to the couch, and they sat, leaving careful space between them. She's amazing, Claire said. You've raised an incredible kid, Ethan. Thanks. She makes it easy most days, and he paused. She really loves you, you know. It's not just the reading program. You've become important to her. She's important to me, too, Claire said softly. More than I ever expected. When I started volunteering, I thought I was just trying to fill a void, but Lily, she's not a replacement for anything. She's just herself, and that's more than enough. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the ticking of the kitchen clock and the distant hum of traffic outside. Can I ask you something? Ethan said, and I need you to be completely honest. Always. What do you want from this? From me? From Lily? From showing up at our door and being part of our lives? Because I need to understand what we're doing here. Claire took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. Honestly, at first I wanted redemption. I wanted to prove to myself that I could be the person I should have been 10 years ago. But it's not about that anymore. Now I just want to be here. I want to help Lily discover her love of stories. I want to have dinner in small kitchens and listen to theories about flying penguins. I want to know you again, Ethan, not the memory of who you were, but the man you've become. And what if knowing me isn't enough? Ethan asked. What if I can't give you what you're looking for? Then I'll accept that, Claire said simply. Because being in your life in any capacity is better than the emptiness I had before. I'm not asking for romance or second chances or some fairy tale ending. I'm just asking to be your friend, to be Lily's friend. Is that something you can give me? Ethan studied her face, the vulnerability in her eyes, the hope she was trying to contain, the genuine acceptance of whatever boundaries he set. Yeah, he said finally, I think I can give you that. The relief that washed over Claire's face was almost painful to witness. Thank you. You have no idea what that means to me. I think I do, Ethan said. You've been alone for a long time, Claire, just like I have. Maybe we both need this. They talked late into the evening, conversation flowing easier than it had in weeks. Claire told him about her therapy sessions, about confronting the grief she'd buried for a decade, about finally calling her parents and telling them exactly what she thought of their interference in her life all those years ago. I actually hung up on my mother, Claire said with a mixture of pride and disbelief. She was going on about how stepping down from CEO was throwing away my potential, and I just ended the call. Then I blocked her number for a week until I was ready to deal with her on my own terms. How did that feel? Terrifying and liberating in equal measure, Claire admitted. I've spent my whole life trying to earn their approval. Letting go of that need has been harder than any business deal I've ever negotiated. Ethan shared his own struggles, the constant worry about money, the guilt he sometimes felt about not giving Lily everything other kids had, the fear that he was screwing up this whole single-parent thing more than he realized. You're not screwing up, Claire said firmly. Lily is happy, healthy, kind, and confident. Those things don't happen by accident. You're doing everything right. Most days I'm just winging it and hoping for the best. That's parenting, Claire said with a smile. At least that's what all the books say, not that I'd know from personal experience. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the child they'd both lost. Do you ever think about it? Ethan asked carefully. The baby? Claire was quiet for a long moment. Every day, she finally said. For years I tried not to, tried to pretend it never happened. But my therapist helped me understand that grief doesn't just disappear because you ignore it. So now I let myself think about who they might have been, whether they'd have had your stubborn streak or my terrible sense of direction, whether they'd have loved books or building things or both. What did the doctors say? Ethan asked. When it happened? That it was spontaneous, that I hadn't done anything wrong, that sometimes pregnancies just end. Claire wiped her eyes. But I blame myself anyway, for the stress of leaving you, for not taking better care of myself, for not wanting the baby enough in those early weeks when I was terrified and overwhelmed. That's not fair to yourself, Ethan said gently. You were young and scared and dealing with impossible pressure. I know that now, but at the time I was convinced it was punishment for leaving you, for being a coward. She looked at him with tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Ethan, for all of it, for robbing you of the choice to be a father to that child, for carrying that grief alone instead of trusting you with it, for everything. Ethan didn't think. He just moved closer and pulled her into his arms, and Claire collapsed against his chest, sobbing out 10 years of buried pain. He held her while she cried, one hand stroking her hair, murmuring reassurances he wasn't sure either of them believed. When the storm finally passed, Claire pulled back, embarrassed and hiccuping. I'm sorry, she said, wiping her face with her sleeves. I didn't mean to fall apart on you. It's okay. You needed that. I've cried more in the past 2 months than I have in the past 10 years combined, Claire said with a watery laugh. My therapist says it's healthy, feels mostly just exhausting. Healing is exhausting, Ethan said. Trust me, I know. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, Claire's head resting on Ethan's shoulder, his arms still loosely around her. It should have felt strange or too intimate, but somehow it just felt right. "I should go," Claire finally said, though she made no move to stand. "It's late, and you have work tomorrow." "Probably," Ethan agreed, equally reluctant to break the moment. But eventually Claire did stand, gathering her purse and sweater. Ethan walked her to the door, hands in his pockets. "Thank you for dinner," Claire said, "and for listening, and for not throwing me out when I had a breakdown on your couch." "Any time," Ethan said, and meant it. Claire reached for the doorknob, then paused. "The fall festival is in 2 weeks. Would it be okay if we got coffee before? Maybe talked about how to handle it with Lily, make sure we're on the same page about boundaries and expectations?" "That's a good idea," Ethan said. "How about Saturday morning? There's a decent place near the park." "It's a date," Claire said, then quickly corrected herself. "I mean, not a date, just a coffee meeting. A friendly coffee meeting between two people who are figuring out how to coexist in a 7-year-old's life." Ethan couldn't help but smile at her flustered rambling. "I know what you meant, Claire." "Right, good. Okay." She took a breath. "Saturday morning. I'll text you." "Sounds good." Claire left, and Ethan stood in the doorway watching her walk down the stairs to her car. She turned back once, gave a small wave, and then drove away into the night. Ethan closed the door and leaned against it, trying to process everything that had happened. 2 weeks ago, he'd been furious with Claire, ready to cut her out of his life completely. Now he'd invited her to dinner, held her while she cried, and agreed to coffee. He was either making the biggest mistake of his life or the bravest decision he'd ever made. Probably both. Saturday arrived with perfect autumn weather, cool and crisp with leaves turning brilliant shades of red and gold. Ethan dropped Lily at his mother's house for a few hours and drove to the coffee shop, arriving 10 minutes early because nervous energy had him pacing his apartment at dawn. Claire was already there, sitting at an outdoor table with 2 cups of coffee steaming in front of her. "I didn't know what you liked," she said as he sat down. "So I got black coffee and brought sugar and cream on the side. I remembered you used to drink it black, but that was a long time ago and people change." "Black is still good," Ethan said, touched that she'd remembered such a small detail. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching families stroll through the nearby park, dogs chasing frisbees, joggers navigating the walking paths. "I've been thinking about what you said," Claire began, "about me not destroying everything I touch. And I want you to know that's become my new mantra. Every morning I wake up and tell myself that today I'm going to build something instead of breaking it." "How's that going?" "Some days better than others," Claire admitted. "I still have control issues, still want to fix everything with money or influence, but I'm catching myself more now, pausing before I act, actually considering consequences instead of just bulldozing forward. That's progress." "It is, and a lot of it is because of you." She met his eyes. "You've held me accountable in ways no one else ever has. Most people in my life either worship me because of my money or resent me because of it. You just see me, the good and the bad and everything in between. Do you know how rare that is?" "You deserve people who see you," Ethan said. "Real you, not CEO you." "I'm learning to see myself too," Claire said. "It's uncomfortable sometimes realizing how much of my identity was wrapped up in corporate success, but it's also freeing. I get to decide who I want to be now instead of who my parents or the board or society expects me to be." "So who do you want to be?" Claire considered the question seriously. "Someone kind, someone present, someone who makes a difference in small, meaningful ways instead of big, splashy gestures. Someone worthy of the people who matter most." She paused. "Someone worthy of you and Lily." The admission hung between them, vulnerable and honest. "You're already worthy," Ethan said quietly. "You just have to believe it yourself." They talked for over an hour, mapping out how the fall festival would work, where they'd sit, how they'd interact with other parents, what they'd say if anyone asked about their relationship. The conversation was practical and necessary, but underneath it ran a current of something deeper. Trust slowly rebuilding, friendship carefully forming, and maybe, just maybe, the first fragile shoots of something more. As they were leaving, Claire's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her expression shifted to something complicated. "It's my mother," she said. "I should probably take this. Our relationship is still pretty rocky, but we're trying." "Go ahead," Ethan said. "I'll wait." Claire answered, stepping a few feet away. Ethan could hear her side of the conversation, professional at first, then gradually warming as she apparently decided to let her guard down. "No, Mom, I'm not reconsidering the CEO position because I'm actually happy for the first time in years. Yes, I know you think I'm wasting my potential, but maybe my potential isn't what you always thought it was." There was a long pause while her mother spoke. "Actually, I'm having coffee with someone." "Yes, someone important. His name is Ethan. Mom, before you say anything, I need you to listen." Claire turned slightly, and Ethan could see her profile, the determination in her jaw, the way she squared her shoulders like she was preparing for battle. "He's the man I told you about 10 years ago, the one you said wasn't good enough for me, remember? Well, you were wrong. He's more than good enough. He's kind and hardworking and an amazing father, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else make me feel ashamed for wanting him in my life. No, we're not together. We're friends. But even if we were more, that would be my choice, not yours. I love you, Mom, but I'm done living my life according to your expectations." Another pause, longer this time. "Thank you for saying that. I know it's hard for you. I will. Talk soon." She ended the call and turned back to Ethan, her hands shaking slightly but her face glowing with pride. "That was brave," Ethan said. "That was terrifying," Claire corrected, "but necessary. I've spent too many years letting her dictate my choices. Time to take my life back." "What did she say at the end?" "She said she was sorry, that she'd been wrong to pressure me the way she did back then, that if being with you makes me happy, she'll try to accept it." Claire laughed. "Of course, she also pointed out that we're not actually together, so she's not accepting too much yet." "Baby steps," Ethan said with a smile. They walked to their cars together, the autumn sun warm on their faces. At Claire's Mercedes, she turned to face him. "Can I tell you something that might be too honest?" "Always." "Standing here with you right now, after coffee and conversation and my mother's reluctant blessing, I'm happier than I've been in a decade. And that scares me, Ethan, because what if I mess this up? What if I fall back into old patterns and hurt you again?" Ethan stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her green eyes. "Then you'll hurt me, and I'll be angry, and we'll either work through it or we won't. But Claire, we can't build something new if you're always terrified of breaking it. Sometimes you just have to trust yourself." "I don't know if I can." "Then trust me," Ethan said. "Trust that I'll tell you if you're screwing up. Trust that I won't let you self-destruct without calling you on it. Trust that I'm here because I choose to be, not because I'm trapped or obligated or hoping for something you can't give." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you so good to me after everything I've done?" "Because everyone deserves a second chance," Ethan said simply. "And because beneath all the fear and control issues and corporate armor, you're still the woman I fell in love with all those years ago. She's still in there, Claire, and I think she's worth fighting for." Before he could second-guess himself, Ethan leaned in and kissed her forehead, a gesture of comfort and affection and promise all at once. When he pulled back, Claire was crying and smiling simultaneously. "I don't deserve you," she whispered. "Probably not," Ethan agreed with a gentle smile. "But you're stuck with me anyway." They parted ways, and Ethan drove to his mother's house to pick up Lily. His daughter bounced out the front door full of stories about baking cookies with Grandma, but she stopped mid-sentence when she saw her father's face. "You look happy, Daddy. Did something good happen?" "Yeah, sweetheart," Ethan said, lifting her into his arms. "I think something very good happened." That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Thank you for today. For seeing the best in me even when I can't see it myself. I'm going to work every day to be worthy of that faith." "See, you already are," Ethan typed back. "Now you just have to believe it." He set the phone down and stood at Lily's doorway, watching his daughter sleep peacefully, her new telescope on the nightstand beside her bed. 2 months ago, his life had been simple. Work, daughter, routine, no complications. Now it was messy and uncertain and full of risks he wasn't sure he was ready to take. But as he stood there thinking about Claire's smile, about the way she lit up around Lily, about the fragile hope growing between them, Ethan realized something important. Simple wasn't always better. Sometimes the best things in life were complicated, difficult, and absolutely worth fighting for. And for the first time in 10 years, he was ready to fight. The 2 weeks leading up to the fall festival passed in a blur of rehearsals, costume fittings, and an easy rhythm that surprised Ethan with its naturalness. Claire continued her Thursday reading sessions, but now she also joined them for dinner twice a week. Casual evenings filled with Lily's chatter, simple meals, and conversations that stretched late into the night after his daughter fell asleep. They didn't talk about what they were building, didn't label it or define it or put expectations on it. They just let it unfold naturally, like a story revealing itself one page at a time. On the Wednesday before the festival, Ethan's phone rang while he was mixing concrete at the construction site. He almost didn't answer when he saw the unfamiliar number, but something made him pick up. "Is this Ethan Ryder?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "Speaking." "My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm a recruiter with Morrison Engineering. Your name came across my desk recently as someone with extensive construction experience and an incomplete engineering degree from 10 years ago. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" Ethan's stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, who gave you my information?" "I'm not at liberty to say, but someone who believes you have untapped potential recommended we reach out. We have a program specifically designed for experienced tradesmen who want to complete their engineering credentials while working. It's fully funded, tuition, books, even a living stipend. Are you interested in hearing more?" Ethan knew immediately who had done this. "Can you hold on for just 1 second?" He set down his tools and walked away from the noise of the site, his mind racing. This had Claire written all over it. Another grand gesture, another attempt to fix his life with her resources and connections. "Mr. Ryder?" Jennifer's voice pulled him back. "I appreciate the call," Ethan said carefully, "but I need to think about this. Can I have your contact information and get back to you?" "Of course." She rattled off an email and phone number. "We'd love to have you in our program, Mr. Ryder. Your experience is exactly what we're looking for." After hanging up, Ethan immediately called Claire. "Hey," she answered, pleasure evident in her voice. "I wasn't expecting to hear from you until—" "Did you contact an engineering recruiter about me?" Ethan interrupted. There was a pause. "I can explain." "Claire." His voice was tight with frustration. "We talked about this. No more fixing things without talking to me first." I know, but just listen. I didn't pull strings or call in favors. I simply forwarded your name to a legitimate program that helps people finish engineering degrees while working. They make their own decisions about candidates. I didn't guarantee you anything or use my influence. I just opened a door. What you do with it is completely your choice." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to push down the automatic anger. "You should have asked me first." "You're right," Claire said immediately. "I should have. I'm sorry. It's just, you mentioned once that you still think about what might have been if you'd finished your degree, and I thought maybe this could be a second chance, but I overstepped. Again. I'll call them back and tell them to withdraw your name." "Don't," Ethan said, surprising himself. "Don't withdraw it. Just, next time, talk to me before you open doors, even if your intentions are good. I will, I promise." She paused. "Are you going to consider the program?" Ethan looked around at the construction site, at the work that had defined his adult life, at the career he'd built from necessity rather than passion. "I don't know. Maybe. It's complicated with Lily and work and everything else." "The program is designed for people with complicated lives," Claire said gently. "But again, your choice. I won't bring it up again unless you want to talk about it." "Okay." Ethan felt his anger dissipating, replaced by something more complicated. "I have to get back to work. I'll see you tomorrow at the festival? I'll be there, front row." That night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the recruiter's call. He pulled up the Morrison Engineering website and read about their program: evening classes, flexible scheduling, partnerships with construction companies to accommodate work hours. It was legitimate, well-regarded, designed for exactly someone like him. Could he really go back to school at 33? Finish what he'd started all those years ago? The idea terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. Lily's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Daddy, I can't sleep. I'm too nervous about tomorrow." Ethan closed his laptop and went to his daughter's room, sitting on the edge of her bed. Nervous about being a talking tree? What if I forget my lines? What if I mess up in front of everyone? Then you'll improvise, Ethan said, smoothing her hair. Trees are wise. They've been around for hundreds of years. I bet they forget things all the time and just make up new wisdom on the spot. Lily giggled. That's silly, Daddy. Maybe. But it's true. The best moments in life are usually the unplanned ones. He kissed her forehead. You're going to be amazing tomorrow. I believe in you. Will Miss Donovan really be there? She promised, but what if she can't come? She'll be there, Ethan said with certainty. Wild horses couldn't keep her away. Do you love Miss Donovan? Lily asked suddenly, her voice small in the darkness. The question caught Ethan completely off guard. What makes you ask that? Because you look at her the way Prince Charming looks at Cinderella in my storybook. And she looks at you the same way. And you both smile more when you're together. Out of the mouths of babes. It's complicated, sweetheart, Ethan said carefully. Miss Donovan and I are still figuring out what we mean to each other. But you could love her, right? If you wanted to? Ethan thought about Claire's laugh, about the way she'd held him while confessing her deepest regrets, about the careful way she was rebuilding herself into someone stronger and braver. Yeah, he said softly. I could love her. I think maybe I already do. Good, Lily said, snuggling into her pillow, 'cause I love her too. She makes our family feel more complete. The simple statement hit Ethan square in the chest. Family. That's what they were becoming, slowly, carefully, imperfectly, but undeniably. Get some sleep, he whispered. Big day tomorrow. The fall festival dawned bright and clear, the school grounds transformed into an autumn wonderland of orange and gold decorations, food booths, and a makeshift stage where the class play would be performed. Parents arrived early to claim good seats, and the air buzzed with excitement and the smell of cider donuts. Ethan spotted Claire immediately. She stood near the entrance wearing jeans, a soft sweater, and boots, dressed down but still somehow elegant. When she saw him, her face lit up with a smile that made his heart skip. Ready for this? She asked as he approached. As ready as I'll ever be. Fair warning, I might cry when Lily comes on stage. I've already got tissues, Claire said, holding up her purse. I've been emotional all morning. They found seats in the third row, close enough to see Lily's expressions, but not so close that Ethan's nervous energy would distract her. Other parents filtered in around them, and Ethan noticed a few curious glances at Claire, the beautiful woman sitting beside the construction worker's single dad. Let them look. He didn't care anymore what anyone thought. Mrs. Patterson took the stage to welcome everyone and explain the festival schedule. The play would start in 20 minutes, followed by carnival games, a bake sale, and a costume parade. Nervous? Claire asked quietly. Terrified, Ethan admitted. Not about the play, about everything else. Claire reached over and took his hand, lacing their fingers together. Me too, but we'll figure it out. Together. The simple touch, the casual intimacy of it, felt monumental. Ethan squeezed her hand and didn't let go. The play began with a narrator explaining the story of a magical forest where the trees could talk and the animals could sing. The children filed on stage in their costumes, bear, rabbits, owls, and several trees including Lily, who wore a brown costume with paper leaves glued all over it. She delivered her first line perfectly. I am the oldest tree in this forest, and I have seen many seasons come and go. Ethan's throat tightened with pride. Beside him, Claire was already wiping her eyes. The play continued with a story about animals learning to work together to save their forest from a terrible storm. Lily had 2 more scenes, each one delivered with confidence and surprising dramatic flair. When the final curtain call came and all the children took their bows, the audience erupted in applause. Ethan and Claire were on their feet immediately, cheering louder than anyone. Lily spotted them in the crowd, and her whole face glowed. She waved enthusiastically, nearly knocking over the tree beside her, and both adults laughed through their tears. She was perfect, Claire said, still clapping. She really was, Ethan agreed, his voice thick with emotion. After the play, children scattered to find their parents, and Lily came running over, her paper leaves fluttering behind her. "Did you see me? Did you see my part?" "You were incredible." Ethan swept her up into his arms. "Best talking tree I've ever seen." "You were magnificent," Claire added, hugging them both. "A natural performer." "Can we do the carnival games now? Please? Emma's mom said there's a ring toss and a cakewalk and everything." They spent the next hour working their way through the festival activities. Ethan won Lily a small stuffed owl at the ring toss. Claire proved surprisingly skilled at the beanbag toss, winning a homemade apple pie that she insisted they share later. They bought cider donuts and watched Lily's face get covered in cinnamon sugar. It was perfect, simple and joyful, and exactly what Ethan hadn't realized he'd been missing all these years. Someone to share these moments with. Someone who cared about his daughter as much as he did. As the afternoon sun began to slant golden through the trees, Lily ran off to play with Emma in the bounce house, leaving Ethan and Claire standing together near the food booths. "I need to tell you something," Claire said, her voice nervous. Ethan's stomach tightened. "Okay. I've been thinking a lot about what I want my life to look like. The advisory role at the company is fine, but it's not enough. I want to do something that matters, something that makes a real difference." She took a deep breath. "I'm starting a foundation, a literacy foundation that provides books and reading programs to underfunded schools. I'm calling it Second Chapters." "Claire, that's amazing," Ethan said, genuinely impressed. "There's more," she continued. "I want to step away from the business world almost entirely. Focus on the foundation, on writing, on volunteering. I'm even thinking about going back to school myself, getting a teaching credential so I can work with kids full-time." "That's a huge change." "I know, but it's the right change. For the first time in my adult life, I'm choosing what I want instead of what I think I should want." She looked at him with those green eyes that had haunted him for a decade. "And what I want, Ethan, is a life that has room for joy and simplicity and people I love. A life that has room for you and Lily." Ethan's heart pounded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm in love with you," Claire said, her voice trembling but clear. "I probably never stopped loving you, if I'm being honest. And I know it's complicated and messy, and there's so much history between us. I know you might not be ready to hear this, but I'm done hiding my feelings and pretending I want something different than what's right in front of me." Before Ethan could respond, Claire pressed on, words tumbling out like she'd been holding them back too long. "I don't need grand gestures or declarations. I don't need you to say you love me back right now, or maybe ever. I just need you to know that I'm all in. Whatever this is, whatever it becomes, I'm committed to showing up and doing the work and being the person you and Lily deserve. I'm not going anywhere this time. Not unless you tell me to go." Ethan stared at her, this woman who'd shattered him once and was now standing before him completely vulnerable, offering her whole heart with no guarantees. "You're sure?" he asked. "About all of it? The foundation, the career change, us?" "I've never been more sure of anything," Claire said. "I spent 10 years running from the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm done running, Ethan. I want to build something real with you, if you'll have me." Ethan looked over at Lily, bouncing happily in the bounce house with her friends, her laughter carrying across the festival grounds. He thought about the past 10 years, the heartbreak, the hard work, the lonely nights wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. He thought about the engineering program, about second chances, about the terrifying possibility of letting someone back into his carefully guarded heart. And he made his choice. "I'm terrified," he said honestly. "Terrified that I'll trust you and you'll hurt me again. Terrified that I'm not enough for you. Terrified that this is all going to fall apart, and Lily will be the one who pays the price." Claire's face fell, but she nodded. "I understand. But," Ethan interrupted, "I'm also tired of letting fear make my decisions. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago, Claire. Neither am I. Maybe we're both finally ready for this." Hope flickered across Claire's features. "Does that mean—" "It means I love you too," Ethan said, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. "I've been fighting it for months, telling myself it was too risky, too complicated. But the truth is, I fell in love with you all over again the moment I saw you in that school hallway. I've just been too scared to admit it." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "Really? Really?" Ethan stepped closer, close enough to see the tears spilling down her cheeks, close enough to reach up and wipe them away with his thumb. I'm not saying it'll be easy. We have a lot to figure out, logistics, boundaries, how we explain this to Lily. But if you're serious about this, about us, then I want to try. I'm serious, Claire said fervently. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Then we try, Ethan said simply. We take it slow, we communicate, we work through the hard stuff together instead of running from it. Together, Claire repeated, like a vow. Ethan leaned in and kissed her, soft and gentle and full of 10 years of longing finally acknowledged. Claire's hands came up to frame his face, and for a moment the festival, the noise, the entire world faded away. When they finally pulled apart, Claire was crying and laughing simultaneously. I can't believe this is real, she whispered. Believe it, Ethan said, resting his forehead against hers. You're stuck with me now. Best news I've heard in a decade. They were interrupted by Lily's voice calling across the festival grounds. Daddy, Miss Donovan, come see the face painting booth. Hand in hand, they walked over to where Lily was waiting, her face already painted with a butterfly design that matched the ones from the museum. Look what I got. She spun around to show them. Do you like it? It's beautiful, sweetheart, Ethan said. Lily studied their clasped hands with the sharp perception only children possess. Are you guys together now, like boyfriend and girlfriend? Ethan and Claire exchanged glances, and Claire knelt down to Lily's level. How would you feel about that? Claire asked gently. If your dad and I wanted to spend more time together? Lily pretended to consider this seriously. Would you still read me stories? Every single night, if you wanted. Would you come to dinner more? As often as your dad would let me. Would you make Daddy happy? Because sometimes he seems lonely even when I'm there. The observation made Ethan's chest tight. Claire looked up at him, then back at Lily. I'm going to try my very best to make both of you happy, Claire promised. But Lily, I need you to understand something important. Your dad and I are going to take this slowly and carefully because we want to make sure we do it right. That means some days might be confusing or weird while we figure things out. Is that okay? Lily nodded solemnly, then threw her arms around Claire's neck. I'm glad you came back, Miss Donovan. I like our family better with you in it. Claire hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face again. Over Lily's shoulder, she met Ethan's eyes, and in that look was everything: gratitude, love, hope for a future they were finally brave enough to build together. The festival wound down as evening approached. They bought Lily a caramel apple for the drive home and said goodbye to her classmates. Walking through the parking lot, Lily held both their hands, swinging between them like she'd done this 1,000 times before. Can Miss Donovan come home with us? Lily asked as they reached their cars. I think Miss Donovan should probably go to her own home tonight, Ethan said. But maybe she can come for dinner tomorrow. Would that be okay with you, Claire? I'd love that, Claire said. They said their goodbyes, and Ethan watched Claire drive away before loading Lily into his truck. On the drive home, his daughter chattered about the festival, about her performance, about how happy she was that Daddy and Miss Donovan were friends again. We're more than friends, sweetheart, Ethan said carefully. We're trying to be something more. Does that make sense? Like how Prince Charming and Cinderella were more than friends? Something like that. Lily was quiet for a moment. Daddy, do you think our baby is happy? The one Miss Donovan lost? The question came from nowhere and hit Ethan like a freight train. How do you know about that? I heard you and Miss Donovan talking one night when you thought I was asleep, Lily said matter-of-factly. You said she lost a baby a long time ago. Was it your baby too? Ethan pulled over to the side of the road, unable to drive and have this conversation simultaneously. He turned to face his daughter. Yes, sweetheart, it was my baby too. Before you were born, before I even knew you existed, Miss Donovan and I were going to have a baby together, but sometimes babies don't get to be born, and that's what happened. That's really sad, Lily said, her eyes filling with tears. It is sad, Ethan agreed. Very sad. Do you think the baby would have liked me if they'd gotten to grow up? The question broke something open in Ethan's chest. I think they would have loved you, Lily, just like I do, just like Miss Donovan does. I wish I could have met them, Lily said wistfully. They could have been my big brother or sister. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. They sat there for a moment in the fading light, father and daughter sharing the grief for a child that never was. Then Lily unbuckled her seatbelt and crawled into Ethan's lap, hugging him fiercely. It's okay, Daddy. We're still a family. You and me and Miss Donovan. Even without the baby, we're still a family. Ethan held his daughter and cried. For the child they'd lost. For the years he and Claire had wasted. For the beautiful, complicated family they were building from the broken pieces of their past. Yeah, sweetheart, he whispered into her hair. We're still a family. 3 months later, on a cold December evening, Ethan stood in his apartment surrounded by textbooks and engineering diagrams. He'd enrolled in the Morrison program, taking evening classes twice a week while continuing to work during the day. It was exhausting, challenging, and exactly what he needed. Claire had kept her promise about starting the second chapter's foundation. She'd rented a small office downtown, hired a tiny staff, and was already partnering with 15 schools to expand their reading programs. She'd also started teaching credential classes, determined to make her childhood dream a reality. And their relationship had deepened into something steady and real. They had dinner together 3 or 4 times a week. Claire stayed over occasionally, sleeping on the couch because they were taking things slowly for Lily's sake. They argued sometimes. Claire's control issues didn't disappear overnight, and Ethan's defensiveness still flared when he felt overwhelmed. But they worked through it. They talked, compromised, apologized when they were wrong. They were building something that lasted. Tonight was significant for a different reason. Claire had asked Ethan and Lily to come to her apartment for a special dinner, the first time she'd hosted them in her space. When they arrived, Ethan was struck by how different Claire's home was from her office persona. The penthouse apartment was beautiful but warm, filled with books and comfortable furniture and photographs of people she loved, including, he noticed, a framed picture from the fall festival showing Claire, Ethan, and Lily standing together, all 3 of them laughing. You framed that? Ethan asked, touching the picture gently. It's my favorite, Claire said. The moment I knew for certain we were going to make this work. Dinner was simple. Homemade lasagna, salad, and garlic bread that Claire admitted she'd burned twice before getting right. Lily helped set the table, chattering about her upcoming winter concert and the new chapter book Claire had given her. After dinner, while Lily was absorbed in coloring at the coffee table, Claire pulled Ethan onto the balcony. The city spread out below them, lights twinkling in the darkness. I have something to tell you, Claire said, her voice nervous, and I want you to hear me out before you respond. Ethan's stomach tightened. Okay. I've been thinking about the future, about what I want my life to look like 5-10 years from now, and every vision I have includes you and Lily. She took a deep breath. I know we've only been officially together for 3 months. I know this might seem too fast, but I also know that I don't want to waste any more time being cautious when I could be living. Claire reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Ethan's heart stopped. Before you panic, Claire said quickly, this isn't a proposal, not exactly. It's more of a promise. She opened the box to reveal a simple silver ring. This is a commitment ring. I'm giving it to you as a symbol that I'm serious about us, about our future. Someday, when we're both ready, I hope you'll ask me to marry you. But for now, I just want you to know that I'm all in. Completely, utterly, irrevocably, all in. Ethan stared at the ring, emotions swirling too fast to name. Claire, you don't have to wear it if you don't want to, she rushed on. You can keep it in a drawer, you can throw it away, whatever feels right. I just needed you to know that I'm committed to this. To us. For the long haul. Ethan took the box from her hands and studied the ring. It was perfect, understated, masculine, exactly his style. He slipped it onto his right ring finger, and it fit perfectly. I love you, he said simply, and I want to marry you someday. When we're both ready. When Lily's ready. But Claire, you're right. We're done wasting time. He pulled his own small box from his jacket pocket. Claire's eyes widened. What? I was going to wait until Christmas, Ethan said, opening the box to reveal a delicate gold ring with a small diamond. But since we're apparently both terrible at patience, I might as well do this now. He got down on one knee right there on the balcony, the cold December wind swirling around them. Claire Donovan, will you marry me? Claire's hands flew to her mouth, tears already streaming. Are you serious? Right now? I've never been more serious about anything in my life, Ethan said. I love you. Lily loves you. You're already part of our family, so let's make it official. Marry me, Claire. Build a life with us. Write the next chapter of our story together. Yes, Claire breathed. Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes. Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger and she pulled him to his feet, kissing him with all the passion and promise of their future together. They were interrupted by Lily's voice from inside. Are you guys getting married? Because I can hear everything through the glass door, and I'm pretty sure the answer was yes. They broke apart laughing, and Lily came running onto the balcony. So Miss Donovan is going to be my mom now? She asked, bouncing with excitement. Claire knelt down to her level. If that's okay with you. I would never try to replace your biological mom, but I would be honored to be part of your family officially. Can I call you Mom instead of Miss Donovan? Claire's voice broke. I would love that more than anything. Lily threw her arms around Claire's neck. I can't wait to tell Emma. I'm getting a mom and my dad is getting married and this is the best day ever. 6 months later, on a perfect June afternoon, Ethan and Claire stood in the backyard of a small house they'd bought together. A real house with a yard and room for Lily to play, and a home office where Claire could write and Ethan could study. The wedding was intimate, just close friends, family, and Lily's entire second-grade class because she'd insisted that everyone she loved should be there. Marcus served as best man, making a toast about second chances and stubborn hearts finally figuring things out. Ethan's mother cried through the entire ceremony. Even Claire's parents attended, her mother tearfully apologizing for the mistake she'd made all those years ago. But the most important moment came when the officiant asked if anyone wanted to speak before the couple exchanged vows. Lily's hand shot up. I have something to say, she announced, walking to stand between her father and Claire. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket, a speech she'd written herself. When Daddy and Mom first met again, Daddy was sad and Mom was lonely, but then they found each other and remembered that love is about being brave even when you're scared. They taught me that families aren't just people who've always been together. Sometimes families are people who choose each other, even when it's hard. She looked up at them both, her young face serious and wise beyond her years. Daddy, you taught me that love means showing up every single day, even when you're tired. Mom, you taught me that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. And together, you taught me that the bravest thing anyone can do is give love a second chance. There wasn't a dry eye in the backyard. Lily finished her speech and hugged them both. I love you, Daddy. I love you, Mom. Thank you for being my family. When it was time to exchange vows, Ethan spoke first, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. Claire, 10 years ago I thought I'd lost the love of my life. I spent years being angry, being bitter, being afraid to trust anyone that deeply again. But you taught me that love isn't about never making mistakes. It's about having the courage to fix them. You've shown me what it means to truly change, to do the hard work of becoming better. And I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you the same grace you've shown yourself. I promise to communicate instead of shutting down. I promise to build our life together instead of trying to control it alone. I promise to love you in the simple, everyday moments and the extraordinary ones. You are my second chance, and I will never take that for granted. Claire was crying openly as she spoke her own vows. Ethan, you saw the worst parts of me and still believed I could be better. You held me accountable while never giving up on me. You gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me, the chance to be part of your family, to love your incredible daughter, to build a life that matters. I promise to always talk to you before making major decisions. I promise to choose presence over perfection. I promise to love Lily as fiercely as if I'd carried her myself. And I promise to spend every day proving that I was worth the risk you took in loving me again. When they kissed as husband and wife, the small crowd erupted in cheers, and Lily jumped between them, hugging them both. The reception was joyful and chaotic, filled with dancing, laughter, and the kind of messy happiness that comes from people who fought hard for their joy. As the sun set and strings of lights illuminated the backyard, Ethan found himself standing with Claire, watching Lily spin in circles with her friends. Can you believe this is our life now? Claire asked, leaning into his side. Some days I have to pinch myself, Ethan admitted. A year ago I was angry and alone and convinced I'd never trust anyone again. Now I have you, I'm finishing my degree. We have a home together. We have a family, Claire finished. A real, imperfect, beautiful family. Do you ever think about the baby? Ethan asked softly. About who they might have been? Every day, Claire said, but I've made peace with it. I think maybe that baby brought us together the first time, and even though we lost them, they gave us Lily in a roundabout way. Everything we went through led us here, to this moment, to this family. I like to think they'd be happy for us, Ethan said. I think they would be too. They stood in comfortable silence, watching their daughter now, not just his, play with her friends under the fairy lights. I have a surprise for you, Claire said. I was going to wait until our honeymoon, but I can't hold it in anymore. What kind of surprise? I sold my penthouse, Claire said, and I'm donating the entire proceeds to the Second Chapter's foundation. Every penny, because I don't need luxury apartments or expensive things anymore. I have everything I need right here. Ethan turned to look at his wife, and felt his heart swell with love so profound it almost hurt. You're incredible. You know that? I'm just finally living the life I should have chosen from the beginning, Claire said. A life based on love instead of fear, on people instead of possessions, on joy instead of achievement. I'm proud of you, Ethan said, for the foundation, for finishing your teaching credential, for becoming the person you always wanted to be. I'm proud of us, Claire corrected, for fighting for this when it would have been easier to walk away, for believing we deserved a second chance. As night fell completely and the party continued around them, Ethan pulled Claire close and kissed her under the stars. Happy? He asked. Happier than I knew was possible, Claire answered. Lily ran over, grabbing both their hands. Come dance, they're playing our song. She dragged them onto the makeshift dance floor where other couples were already swaying to the music. The three of them danced together, father, mother, and daughter. A family forged not from perfection but from the courage to try again. Later that night, after the guests had gone home and Lily was asleep in her new bedroom, Ethan and Claire stood on the porch of their house, looking up at the stars. Do you think we'll always be this happy? Claire asked. I think we'll have hard days, Ethan said honestly. Days when we disagree or struggle or wonder if we made the right choice. But yeah, I think we'll always come back to this, to choosing each other, to being grateful for the second chance we almost didn't take. I love you, Claire whispered. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. I love you too, Ethan said. Thank you for coming back, for staying, for fighting for us. They stood together in the warm summer night, two people who'd survived heartbreak and loss and the weight of their own worst mistakes, who'd found their way back to each other against all odds. Ethan had spent years believing his life was about enduring hardship alone, about surviving rather than thriving. He'd convinced himself that happiness was for other people, that his job was simply to provide for his daughter and ask for nothing more. But standing there with Claire beside him, their daughter sleeping peacefully inside their home, their future stretching out before them full of possibility, he finally understood something different. Sometimes the bravest thing a person could do wasn't surviving the pain. Sometimes it was having the courage to heal from it, the courage to forgive themselves and others, the courage to trust again, to love again, to believe that broken things could be made whole. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, you got a second chance at the life you thought you'd lost forever. A second chapter, a new beginning, a love that was stronger for having been tested. Ethan took Claire's hand and led her inside, closing the door on their past and stepping fully into the future they'd built together. Their story wasn't perfect. It was messy and complicated and hard-won, but it was theirs. And that made it beautiful.